They my bestie. She's my bestie. That's my bestie. Your pair of eyes had me paralyzed. Toxic nigga, but you made me to a better guy. Smoke, but with you on forever, ever. I can watch you all day, girl, like you televised. They think like this nigga, they ain't never lied. I left the bitches alone, I had to pick a side. Look in your eyes, girl, you were hypnotized. Of course it was your breasts, hips, and them damn thighs. Close my eyes, I'm still mesmerized. Get mad at my bestie, I tried. That's my bestie, my pretty.
I heard she's the one, she's got it going on. That's my pretty eyes, baby. Yeah, yeah. She don't take no mess. My bestie is the best. That's my pretty eyes, baby. Yeah, yeah. I heard she's the one, she's got it going on. That's my pretty eyes, baby.
Hey, excuse me. Hey, iRise. How are you, hon? So I am back for another day of the Karen Read trial. Hey, Daniel. We're doing day 5 or half of the rest of day 5 and the end part of day 6 today. Anyways, all right. So let's get into it. So because I stop this thing every 5 seconds to talk, but this is wild. Okay.
You be seated, court is in session.
Thank you. All right. Sergeant Good, please.
Let me move you up. Thank you. Oh, now I can't see it. Oh.
Sir, I'll remind you, you're still under oath.
Okay. All right, Mr. Lally, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Your Honor. So, Sergeant, resuming with what's just been marked as Exhibit 41, that's the cruiser camera video from your cruiser 682 that you were driving that day. Is that correct?
Yes.
And Ms. Gilman, if you could, with the court's permission, I'd like to publish some of that.
Okay.
Ms. Gilman, if you could start from the beginning through about 4 minutes and 30 seconds.
It wasn't whiteout conditions. It was snowing, but it wasn't whiteout conditions like they say.
Can you pause it just 1 second? Sergeant, if you could, as the video is playing along, just alert the jury to the portion of the video where you observe yourself sort of pulling on to Fairview Road.
Yes.
Ms. Gilman, if you could, when the Sergeant does that, if you could just pause it at that. Thank you.
This is so unnecessary. But they got to prove that it was snowing. Jeez Louise. It was coming down.
All right, we're coming up to Fairview right now. That's Spring. And then next one up.
From where I live, we got whiteout conditions. Shit.
That's Fairview right there on the right.
Pause just a minute. Sergeant Good, if I could take you back just to the right that you took just before that. What street are you on right now?
That's Chapman Street.
And was that Washington Street that you returned to get onto Chapman?
Correct.
Can I ask you, when you're turning from Washington Street onto Chapman, are there any sort of businesses or sort of landmarks on your right or your left?
Don't look very downhill to me.
So on the right-hand side, as you're turning onto Chapman, that's going to be Cassie's Corner Store. And on the left at the intersection is, used to be called Temple Beth Abraham. I believe it's Temple Bin Bar something. I don't know the actual name, but.
So there's Temple on your left and Cassie's on your right?
Correct.
And so at this point in the video here is about when you're about to turn on to Fifth, right?
Yes.
Well, it doesn't look very downhill to me, sir, like you planned. But okay. Okay, it's an uphill. And there's only about 3 to 5 inches on the ground. This is some bullshit.
Can I approach the window, Sean?
Yes.
God, I gotta move myself. Hold on, let me take up myself up this. Oh, well, he's going to.
It was.
So, sir, sorry, there's a pointer.
Oh, okay.
If I could, Sergeant, just ask you to, within this sort of still frame up here on the screen, do you recognize people that are depicted within this still frame of this video?
Yes.
And if, to whatever extent you do recognize people, if you could, using the laser pointer, draw the jury's attention to whom you recognize.
All right. That's going to be myself. Right there is going to be firefighter McLaughlin. That's going to be Miss Reed. And if you played it another second, I believe that's going to be Miss McCabe, or if not, Miss Roberts.
Ms. Gilman, if you could. Ms. Gilman. The gentleman you see sort of behind you in the frame, Sergeant, do you recognize who that is?
Yes, that's Officer Saraf.
My apologies, Ms. Gilman. You can run. You can take that down. Thank you very much. And so, Sergeant, you arrive on scene in that area. First of all, what's contained in that video? Is that a fair and accurate trail, what you observed as far as the weather conditions outside that day?
Yes.
And when you arrive on scene, who, if anyone, is it that you speak to first?
Initially, I walked up to Officer Saraf. I said probably some version of what's going on. Officer O'Keefe was already in the ambulance. And then I just began to try to talk to anybody and anybody.
And so the ambulance is still on scene when you arrive, is that correct?
Yes.
Officer O'Keefe is in the back of the ambulance, is that
Yeah.
correct?
Yes.
And at some point when you're speaking with Officer Saraf, does he direct your attention to where Officer O'Keefe was prior to being placed in the ambulance?
Yes.
Direct your attention.
If you're looking at the house, it'd be left-hand side, slightly probably right in front of the flagpole.
And about how far off of the roadway would you estimate that was?
I would say 8 to 10 feet off the curb.
Speaking to other people without reference to necessarily what was said to you, following your conversation with Officer Saraf, who, if anyone, you speak to next?
I believe the first person I could really get a statement from was Miss McCabe.
Of course
And when
you
you say
could.
first person you could really get a statement from, what do you mean by that?
It was a chaotic scene. People were just kind of walking in and out. And so Miss McCabe was the first one that was able to give me a good statement of how they ended up here.
Following your conversation with Ms. McCabe, who, if anyone, do you speak to next?
Next was Miss Reed.
And just to be clear, when we speak about Ms. Reed, you see her in the courtroom today?
I do.
misidentifying as where she's seated or an article of clothing she's wearing?
She's sitting between Mr. Jackson and Mr. Yannetti.
I'll just ask the record reflect identification.
Okay.
Now, when you're on scene and you're speaking to these individuals, what if any impact did the weather have as far as your ability to sort of hear things that weren't direct conversations you were involved with?
You couldn't hear. It was oddly eerily quiet, but the wind was so howling that I had a tough time actually hearing people. So you had to speak very loud or get next to each other.
And as far as your conversation with the defendant, Ms. Reed, what, if anything, did you ask her, and what, if any, response did she give?
So I walked Ms. Reed to the back of 682. She was obviously cold. Got her in the back of the car, put the heat on, asked her, how did she end up here? How did her boyfriend end up here? She says, I don't know.
Prior to placing her in the back of the cruiser, how would you describe her sort of demeanor outside?
Hey, cold Pepsi.
Confused, hysterical, shock.
What, if anything, was she saying or asking in
Coca-Cola?
regard to Mr. O'Keefe prior to you putting her in the back of the cruiser?
She was yelling out, is he dead?
And is that something she said once, more than once, or something?
Numerous times.
About how loudly was she saying?
Oh, she was yelling it.
And so once back in the cruiser, you asked her some questions after she said, I don't know. What, if anything else, did you ask her that?
I asked her if she had driven there, and she said, I think so. And then right after that, she said, I don't remember. Because of her state, I decided to stop questioning there. She couldn't keep her train of thought.
This case.
Now, you had notified Detective Sergeant Blank and Lieutenant Gallagher prior to you going to the scene, is that correct?
Yes.
About what time was it that either or both of them arrived?
Detective Sergeant Lang probably got there at about 6:20, 6:25. I immediately briefed him what we had, what was going on so far. And
about what time did Lieutenant Gallagher arrive?
I believe Lieutenant Gallagher probably came in right around 7 a.m.
With the leaf blower and solo cups. Yep.
Following your conversation with the defendant, who, if anyone else, did you speak to once?
Then I spoke to the other party, Miss Roberts.
And if you know, about how long a period of conversation are we talking about with respect to Ms. McCabe and Ms. Roberts?
Each interview?
Yes.
A couple minutes.
And why was it only a couple minutes?
It was a pretty quick statement. It seemed like they were only in the car for a very short amount of time.
Move to strike.
All right. So we'll strike after. It was a pretty quick statement. Next question.
Now, with regard to Ms. Reed, after you had that brief conversation with her at the back of your cruiser, where did you go from? Where did she go from there?
I believe she, at some point, we let her back outside of the car. We never closed the door on her because I was stood in the door frame with my head in the back seat. She got out. She kind of just did her own thing, paced up and back between talking to either Miss Roberts or Miss McCabe, yelling out.
And at some point, did the ambulance of Miss Officer O'Keefe was in, did that leave the scene?
It did.
And following that, what, if anything, did you say or do with reference to the defendant, Ms. Reed?
Once the Officer O'Keefe was transported, Miss Reed just was not listening to any directions. We were trying to keep her in Miss Roberts' car to stay warm. She's going back and forth. I finally told Miss Roberts, we have everybody's information. She's not needed here anymore. Go home, get warm. We'll reach out if we have to.
And
She had said
shortly
to
after,
tell my
at
boyfriend
that
lying
point,
there.
did Miss Roberts take Miss Reed?
She did.
And what, if anything, happened next on scene with regard to Miss Reed?
It was moments later. I got a radio transmission from our officer at the working dispatch that Mr. Reed, her father, was on the phone with Miss Reed, and she was making suicidal threats to take her own life.
And based on that information that you received, what, if anything, did you do in regard to that?
Well, once our
you
officer
guys
Deborah, who
text
didn't
12
even know that we had
Hold
Miss
on.
Reed at the scene, she
You guys
radioed.
decided to Section 12 her so everybody in the house could get their freaking story straight. Let's be honest, dude. This case is bullshit.
To us to confirm that did we have a Karen party on scene. I said we did. She explained that her father was frantic on the phone.
A Karen party? A Karen party.
And Miss Reed was stating that she wanted to end her life. And he, in quotes, said he wanted her to be in protective custody. So at that time, I knew that we'd be able to get a hold of her because I had all the information. I believe I just called Miss Roberts' phone, told her to bring her back to the scene.
And about how long was it after you spoke to Ms. Roberts that they returned to the scene?
They couldn't have gone very far, especially in the road conditions.
And then based on those statements that were reported to you from the dispatch from the defendant's father, what, if anything, did you do with regard to Ms. Reed?
I told Officer Mulaney, who was on scene, most of our patrolmen have, it's called Section 12 paperwork inside of all of our cruisers. Just for that reason, I advised him to fill out the proper paperwork, and we were going to section Miss Reed to the hospital for mental evaluation.
And what is a Section 12 from your perspective?
It's a tool for police officers when you come on scene with someone that's having either a mental problem.
Nah, I think they told you what was going on and what happened, and you decided to play hero in Section 12 so you all could get your story straight. You know, it's not the first time you guys have done some shit like this. I mean, do you remember in 2021 when the young 22-year-old lost her life? And you guys claimed it was self-harm? Yeah. And she was groomed by 3 police officers and pregnant with 1 police officer's baby. And he was married. And he decided, the day he decided that his wife was going into labor, that he would take her life. So, yeah, the secret would never get out. We know.
Breakdown, claiming that they want to hurt themselves, anything like that. We have the power as police officers to fill out the proper paperwork. We're not medical professionals. Let a doctor determine if she does need medical help. And if she doesn't want to go, or
Cold Pepsi, this is the Karen Read trial. I don't know if you've heard about it, but so this is her first trial. Her second trial begins April Fool's Day. Because the fools they are for trying her again. But she is accused of backing up into her boyfriend at 22 miles an hour in a quote-unquote blizzard, but it just barely started to snow, and he ended up losing his life on the front lawn of another police officer's house, and they never searched the house. She backed into his car and cracked her taillight that morning when she went to go look for him, and that's how they figured a way to, confiscate her vehicle and phone. She gave it up willingly. She didn't hide anything, but you miraculously have 2 officers that were there that night. Both of them, in fear that they would have to hand over their phones, got rid of their phones and SIM cards and everything to hide whatever they're hiding. I have no idea, but that, to me, that's guilty as sin. When she has been, she didn't talk to the police. I wouldn't talk to the police either, but she didn't talk to him. She hired an attorney right away. They're just trying to basically get her for this, and then they upped her charges to murder in the second degree, claiming that she did this on purpose, mind you, that they were fighting and he wanted to end it. Yeah, they did. When he decided to Section 12 her, they were all in the house. All the people that were there that night, they were all in the house. They were all in one room together. I ain't never heard of that shit before, because usually you can't be around anybody else. They put you off so you don't get your story straight. You don't corroborate stories, because anybody that has witnessed a crime, if there's 2 witnesses, they're not going to have the same story, because we were born with 2 eyes, just not the same view. We all see things differently. But anyway, so they're trying to railroad her basically, and say that she killed her boyfriend, and because they didn't want to do an investigation, and the lead investigator lost his job for the conduct in this case. He was texting his friends, talking about her medical ailments, calling her a flat ass, calling her all this stuff, saying, one of his friends says, he said, she waffled her, and he was like, I bet you, so the homeowner ain't gonna pay for this, and he goes, no, he's a Boston cop too. So basically, it's the thin blue line circle of trust around this freaking this city in Massachusetts, Canton, Massachusetts, because they've already have one case where they tried to save one of their cop friends, but yet you have a dead cop on the police officer's freaking front lawn, and you're only going to care about the alive blue line? No, motherfuckers, you should. This case is wild. But anyways, oh, this case is wild. And I see this happen all the time. Like, cops always say, oh, you fit the description. And then they take him to court. Oh, well, he fit the description type shit. You know, it happens mainly in minorities. But this is a white woman that they're trying to do this to. It's just crazy. I mean, and then they just had a case right before this second trial that's going forward, of a lady, her and her ex-husband, they got in an argument. They're trying to say that she caused him to have a heart attack. It is corruption. It's corruption all the way down. Like, this case mind boggles me. Like, you're an authority figure. Like, we're supposed to be like, oh, you're going to protect and serve. You're not protecting and serving by being corrupt. And people, what's sad is a lot of conservatives think that cops can't do no wrong. They are fucking human. They do only care about their lives, in all honesty. I mean, look at the woman that freaking had the boiling hot water in her hand. He was so afraid that he might get burned. Like, it just mind boggles me. Mind boggles me. And you know why this shit happens? Because our court system, the DAs, they don't get in trouble for shit like this. And they should. If people hold defense attorneys accountable, they need to hold prosecutors accountable. If DAs don't get held accountable, judges need to get held accountable. It's just, oh my gosh, this is crazy. I mean, they act like, oh, we're a former government, we can't do anything wrong. Yes, you can. You're human. You only care about your life. Like, the reason why we have laws is because some dumbass said, oh, well, I don't like how you do this, so I got to make a law so you can't do that. No one should be telling anybody what to do. As long as you're not hurting yourself or hurting others, plain and simple, leave people the freak alone. Yeah, this case is wild. I mean, even that, I can't remember her name, and please forgive me, but that lady losing her life over boiling hot water on the stove was ridiculous. I just, cases like this drive me nuts. ASAP Rocky's case drove me nuts. YSL drove me nuts. And they get away with it. Oh, we can just try anybody and make them spend all this money. You know, what about the people that can't afford a lawyer? Why, they don't get basically, they have to take a plea deal on Sir F. I don't know. It just corruption just irritates me. It irritates me to no end. And people blindly follow behind what a cop says or what a DA says or anything, and or the media. The media is a big one. I mean, if you're on the internet and you're thinking other shit other than what they put out on the media, you're a conspiracy theorist and all this other stuff. It's dumb. But yet, okay, you say defendants have the presumption of innocence. Well, not when you're putting them on TV saying that they did this, that, and the other. There's no way. Yeah, it did. It showed pure corruption and miscarriage of justice and shows you what it just makes me sick. It makes me sick.
him, that paperwork allows us to actually physically put her on a stretcher and send her to the hospital. Once she gets to the hospital,
So you guys
it's
can
up to
get your
the doctors
story
there to
straight,
do their
or the
due diligence.
homeowner
And if
can
they
get his story straight.
deem that she's not
That's what I did.
mentally unstable, then she's released. But at least it's off of us.
Now, the time.
Yeah, and you know what's sad too, Cold Pepsi, is when these people that go to jury trial, right? For them not to understand what reasonable doubt is, it means if you have any doubt in your mind, any doubt that that person did it or didn't do it, like somebody else could have done it, or if you have any doubt, that doubt, the benefit of that doubt is supposed to go to the defendant, and they don't do that. They always think, oh, I feel sorry for the family. I got to charge them with at least the lower crime. At least they got some kind of reprieve. No. Find the real people. Do your freaking job. I mean, they make us pay for them to have a job, yet they won't let us take their jobs away. That don't make no damn sense. And I don't know any employee that pays their freaking manager or owner, the owner of the business, to tell them what to do. That's dumb. This world's backwards.
Ms. Reed returns to the scene. The fire department, being the ambulance and the engine have already left. Is that correct?
Yes, correct.
And then apparatus from the fire department come back in reference to the section 12.
Correct. So I believe this group was from Station 2, which is the other fire station in the town of Canton. They arrived on scene.
And during that time in between, who arrives first, the fire department or Ms. Roberts with Ms. Reed?
Miss Roberts.
And during that time, after Ms. Roberts arrives with Ms. Reed and prior to the fire department arriving, what, if any, interactions did you have with Ms. Reed during that time?
None.
And then once the fire department returns on scene, what, if anything, do you direct them to with regard to Ms. Reed and with regard to the paperwork you had Officer Mulaney fill out?
Officer Mulaney and Officer Sarif, and looks like in the video, escort Miss Reed to the ambulance, and she's safely transported to the hospital. Our officer back at dispatch called back Mr. Reed, advised her that his daughter was safe.
And then turning back to the scene, following Detective Sergeant Lang's arrival, what, if any, where, if anywhere, did you and Detective Sergeant Lang go on scene following that?
So when we were waiting for the fire truck to arrive, we noticed that the lights went on at 34 Fairview. We needed to obviously speak to the homeowners. I told Sergeant Lang at the time, I believe he was on the phone with CPAC for the state police. I said, the lights just went on the front door. Let's go speak to the homeowners. And we both walked in.
You actually physically walked into the house, is that correct?
Yes.
With respect to prior to you seeing sort of the house lights go on at 34 Fairview,
Just because you walked in the house don't mean you searched it, you son of a bitch. We didn't have probable cause and all this other dumb shit. Right? All this probable cause stuff. A dead person on their lawn isn't enough probable cause. If it was me, anybody else, you would be searching our house. Oh, but he's a cop too, so we can't. We got to save him. Even though there's a dead police officer, we got to save him. This is bullshit.
had you seen anybody go into or out of that residence while you were there?
Yes. At some point, either myself or Sergeant Lang told Ms. McCabe that she needs to wake up the homeowners. We need to speak to them.
And why did you say that specifically to Ms. McCabe?
We have no idea why John O'Keefe is laying on the front lawn of a house. We have no idea. The statements from the three people.
And the sister-in-law lives there. And God, we have no idea. We have no idea. Well, that's why you searched the house, sir. That's why you searched the house. But you focused in on, oh, well, we're going to say it was something else. We're going to pin it on her. She busted her tail light that morning. We'll blame it. We'll bust it in a million pieces and then sprinkle it all over the lawn and say we found it all the way up to 2 weeks later. Even driving by, we've seen red tail light pieces miraculously before our eyes, right? But we're supposed to believe all this. I think every last one of you should lose your job.
need to figure out what happened that night.
And you know what's sad is the freaking family believes this crap.
And so I guess my question is more, why Miss McCabe versus somebody else?
Miss McCabe is the sister-in-law of the homeowner, so she would be a friendly face to knock at the door at 6 o'clock in the morning in a blizzard.
Okay, so nobody was out there when they were driving to go find him. Her, his sister-in-law, and one of the friends, because Karen was distraught. She was frantic, right? So they were like, "No, let me drive you." Da 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 da. Blah 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 blah. And Karen was worried about her taillight because she ran right back. I don't know why, because she was driving drunk. I'm going to be honest. But she was still drunk that morning. But anyways, when she was left to go to the sister-in-law's house to have her take her to where he was, because she was so drunk she didn't even remember dropping him off at that house. Like, because she probably went back to his house pissed off, calling him and shit, wondering where the hell he is, and probably drinking. So she drank until she blacked out, and passed out. And then when she woke up and he wasn't there, she called him and she's like, "John, where are you?" And she called, she had got up his niece, and called the sister-in-law, and she was, and they drove there, and apparently because she's the only one that's seen him lying there, she had to have done something, because the two people in the front seat, well, obviously you guys weren't too worried about looking out the fucking window. Right? So, of course, she's the only one. She's frantically looking for him. She's trying to call him. And the sister-in-law, right after she calls 911, she's calling her sister that lives in the house with the other cop. And he doesn't even, and they know because they picked up. They fucking picked up. They knew something. I mean, but the theory is, the conspiracy is, he was beat up in the house. Karen, okay, this is what makes Karen look bad, is she was texting one of the guys that was in the house weeks before. She ghosted him. That night, he was like, well, and she didn't respond, She was out with John, the decedent, having a good time, lovey-dovey, all that great stuff. She wasn't concerned about, he was showing her attention. She wasn't looking for attention elsewhere. Like, you were there for the time being. She felt like she was unattractive, like he had to go look somewhere else because she seen him kiss another girl when they went on a trip. And they were dating. They weren't tied down, but they liked spending time together. And then they put a spin on it like, oh, well, she's just a glorified babysitter and da-da-da-da-da, all this other dumb stuff. Like, they put their own narrative and spin on it. These girls, they're so spiteful. But anyways, he's a first responder. He didn't even come out to help. And they weren't worried about checking the house. And the funny part is okay, they all say he never went in the house, right? Well, they also say they didn't see no body on the ground when they left that night. So was he either in the house or was he on the ground? And the yard is not that big. I mean, the front yard is not that big. And where they pull out to leave, they all would have seen them.
Now, beyond anybody at 34 Fairview Road, again, before you observe those lights go on in the residence, from the other houses sort of on the street up and down, who, if anyone, did you observe come out of any of those houses?
I just can't believe they said, oh, we didn't search the house because we didn't have probable cause. Cold Pepsi, if it was me or you, and there's a dead person on, a lifeless person on our because he wasn't dead yet, they were still trying to save him. If there was a person dead, laying there lifeless in our front yard, they would be searching our house. They would be knocking on neighbors' doors. They didn't do any of that. That's why, and they all know each other because it's all this, tight-knit circle of trust shit. And John, obviously they had an issue with John because the one brother to the cop that lives at the house, his son used to throw beer cans in their yard, and and told him "fuck you" to his face and stuff. And they gave him the nickname Mr. Nevercracker. They were tired of dealing with this, so they sold their house and moved, so their son could be a hellion in peace, and then the one cop that is friends with the other cop that lives at the house was texting his girlfriend behind his back, but he was his friend and calling him on that night in the bar footage. And then the sister-in-law was an accessory because she was trying to get Karen away from John that night. I have a surprise for you. Why don't you come with me? Why, him and Matt are going to be in there talking forever. It's fishy. Like, it's really fishy. Then where they have her vehicle, every video is doctored in some way or another. They put in an inverted video footage of her car and said, as you can see, her right taillight, nobody went near it. But then when the defense gets up there, they're like, what side is that again? They're like, oh, that would be the driver's side. Okay, then who's standing over here? And this was minutes before they miraculously found like 3 to 6 pieces of taillight pieces, his shoe and his hat, all in 1.5 feet of snow, but couldn't find it in 3 to 5 inches of snow that morning. Because they had to hurry up and, sprinkle taillight on the ground. And they had to hurry and grab his hat and his shoe that was left in the house, I'm quite sure, and throw it in the snow.
Buddy.
And was that something of the time that you were on scene?
Correct.
So how long were you on scene for in total?
Looking at the log, we were there for almost exactly 2 hours.
And so during those 2 hours, no one from any of the houses on the street came outside?
No, I mean, every emergency truck.
Talk to the neighbors.
There's no-
How do you not know? Another cop kitty corner to the way that had a ring cam footage that, Lally said in the beginning that there was video evidence of this bullshit that they never had video of. You guys, it's not a blizzard, okay? It stops snowing while you guys are there. It doesn't start getting really heavy until later, like 10 or 11. Then it starts really coming down. You guys act like 3 to 5 inches is, oh my God. At 6 in the morning, that's 6 hours. But you have 1.5 feet in 4. And you left the crime scene unattended. You didn't cordon it off. You didn't do shit. You got a leaf blower to freaking, I'm surprised you use the leaf blower because I don't know, wouldn't that scatter evidence everywhere? And how you can see blood pooling or blood, whatever, coagulated blood in the snow, but you can't find red taillight pieces at the same time? Y'all should lose your jobs. And then you borrow not only the leaf blower from the neighbor, but the neighbors never came out. They didn't know what was going on, right? Right, dude? Right. But the neighbors, the gave you the red Solo cups and the leaf blower to use. And you could tell it wasn't that much snow on the ground because you could see some of the grass coming through, sir.
All the cars on the road, so you're not.
And you leave, hold on. And you leave the blood evidence in a bag right next to the damn car. Like someone could take a rag and, wipe his DNA all over it. Sprinkle a little glass on the bumper. Oh, yeah, that's all going to stay in a blizzard, mind you. Getting towed to the place, right? A piece of hair all of a sudden is there. All sorts of stuff. You guys should lose your job. And what's funny is you put the whole taillight piece together, right? All the taillight pieces were there miraculously. And, because you carried it with his clothes, so you made sure like a little couple pieces stayed on his clothes so they could find it, right? And then you put the taillight together, and guess what's missing? Only a little piece. Guess what? She broke it that morning. At his house. Not on him. And this is my thing. How can you drive backwards 22 miles an hour on a two-way lane street and not go halfway into the yard or in the house for that matter? And all he ends up with is two black eyes, a freaking laceration right here, a laceration right here, and on the back of his head, he's got a 3-inch cut. And then he's got marks all on his arm that don't look like taillight hit it because they're too perfect formation. It looks like a dog got him. But no, we're just going to try to explain that away.
Coming down with sirens blaring, waking up an entire street, a neighborhood. There's no need for it. So it was just lights and flashing, and to be honest, you couldn't see very far.
So you and Detective Sergeant Lang go into the...
It's okay, Cold Pepsi, because this next trial, they're going to call one of the neighbors. They're going to call one of the neighbors. So we'll see if they came out, right?
Home at 34 Fairview.
But how you getting a leaf blower and styrofoam or red Solo cups from a neighbor if they didn't come out the house? I don't know.
Anyone can speak to him.
Mr. Albert, Mrs. Albert, Brian, and Nicole.
And if anyone else was present in the home when you spoke with them.
When I was in there, I know Jen was in there, but we didn't speak to her because we already spoke to her. But we just spoke to Brian and Nicole right in the front room.
Now, you heard over the course
No,
of the
no. You spoke to all of them in the same
34 Fairview was the Albert residence, correct?
Yes.
You didn't separate them.
Did you know Brian Albert, or were you aware of who he was prior to going to the house that day?
I know of Brian Albert, yes.
How did you know?
Of course.
He's a brother of a coworker that I've worked with for 18 years.
That's why you recuse
Coworker that you
yourself.
worked with for 18
This
years.
is another thing. Is the Canton Police Department, they were supposed to recuse themselves because the cop that lives on where the lawn, where the other cop died, that brother is a part of their police force, and they were supposed to recuse themselves because of conflict of interest, and somehow her car is towed to their place. There's no recorded interviews, no reports, no chain of custody, and no photographs of evidence. They wait to take pictures of her taillight after it gets to the satellite port, but not before they tow it. Fuckery is afoot.
Detective Albert.
What's his first name?
Kevin.
And had you ever been to that house before?
No.
You ever been inside that house before?
No.
And when you go inside that day, it's
Also, he went to school with the sister-in-law. He acts like he don't know Jennifer McCabe, but he went to school with her. And okay, another thing is she Googled. They're gonna try to, explain this away that Cellbrite ain't reliable, even though every case uses Cellbrite. They're gonna say it's not reliable when it comes to her phone because that 227 search that was deleted happened on the sister-in-law's phone. She also deleted 30 freaking calls. And she also was told that she could go ahead and erase messages from her daughters. Who does?
Brian Albert, Nicole Albert, and Ms. McCabe. Is that correct?
Yes.
And during the time that you were in there, do you recall seeing, or who, if anyone else, do you recall seeing in there besides those three people, yourself and Detective Sergeant?
Nobody. Detective Lang took the lead on speaking to Brian and Nicole Albert, and I kind of just moseyed.
Let's talk about Detective Lank. He's also was the lead investigator in the supposed self-harm of the 22-year-old pregnant girl that was pregnant by a cop that the FBI got involved and charged them with, her unaliving because it wasn't self-harm. He actually took her out. Let's talk about that for a second. He's also the cop that helped Brian get his brother Chris out of some BS because he got into a fight with somebody. You guys all know each other, and you act like you try to brush it off. Just like, we got dispatched to 32 Fairview because you tried to distance yourself him away from it as much as possible. And when you conduct interviews, you're supposed to do it double. 2 detectives, not just one, because you can concoct a story. See, this is dirty.
In the front of the house, looked in the dining room, and listened to what they said, what happened. They seemed like they were generally in shock that there was a
Objection.
So, sustain. Next question, please.
What, if anything, did you observe about their demeanor when you spoke?
They looked like they just got woken up at 6 o'clock in the morning.
And as far as you indicating that you're sort of looking,
He was up all night butt dialing and answering butt calls and all this other. See, look, you're telling a lie. Look at your face right now, motherfucker. Look at your face right now. It tells me you're full of shit. All of you should lose your jobs. The whole Canton Police Department needs to lose their fucking jobs. And all the investigators that worked on this case from the MSP, they need to lose their jobs too. Not just Michael Proctor, all of them. Just wait until we get to Julie Albert. Julie Albert, she decided that she would text Michael Proctor and says, when this is all done, I want to give you a present. Mm-hmm. Why do you want to give him a present? Because he's hiding up the murder that your son and your brother-in-law fucking caused? Mm-hmm.
or poking around the front area near the front door, correct?
Yes.
And what, if anything, of note did you observe inside the house when you did?
Nothing. Everything to be in order. It seemed like a normal house.
Yeah, I'm still here. I'll be in the chat though. I'm going to smoke.
And following, if you know, about how long was that conversation in the house?
I would say 20, 25 minutes.
And following that conversation, where did you and Detective Sergeant Lang go?
At that time, we both left the residence, came outside, and at that time, Lieutenant Gallagher was arriving. We had like a little bit of a powwow, figured out what was going on, and I believe that's when we saw Jen McCabe's husband show up and walked in.
And again, you didn't know Jennifer McCabe prior to that day, correct?
No.
Did you know her husband prior to that day?
No.
So after you saw her husband, who you now know to be your husband, walk in, what, if anything, did you and Detective Sergeant Lang?
Sergeant Lake ran back inside to get a statement from Mr. McCabe as well.
Did you go with him?
Lies!
I did not.
Lies! Lies! Lies!
After
You went to
you
school
have
with
sort
her,
of conversation between
motherfucker.
yourself, Detective Sergeant Lane, and Lieutenant Gallagher, what if anything did the three of you do from it?
Lieutenant Gallagher immediately said we need to seal off the area of where Officer Keith was located. We grabbed some crime scene tape, put around. He wanted to photograph the area as well.
And who, if anyone, grabbed the crime scene tape?
Myself.
And what, if anything, did you do?
I wrapped it around probably the flagpole, tree, and cruiser. It was hard to keep up just because the wind was blowing at such a good rate.
And then what, if anything, did you and the other officers do with respect to the area that was identified to you as where Mr. O'Keefe was on Officer Sarah's ride?
Lieutenant Gallagher noticed that the snow was coming down at such a good clip, we couldn't keep it clear, and he made the idea of anybody have a leaf blower, and I did. So I told him I'm not too far away from the house, so I shot back to my residence and grabbed my own.
And about how long a period of time was it between the time that you sort of left to go get the leaf blower and the time that you arrived back?
No more than 5-7 minutes.
And once you arrived back in the area of 34 Fairview Road, what, if anything, happened then?
I started it up for Lieutenant Gallagher. He took it over, and it worked great.
Now, with respect to that sort of implementation of the leaf blower, what, if anything, did you or other officers do to sort of memorialize?
So as Lieutenant Gallagher was using the piece of equipment, I used my iPhone, videotaped it, and took two still photos.
May I approach?
Yes.
I actually don't need to. Ms. Gilman, if I could have exhibit number 33 up on the screen. Just the first one. Sergeant Good, have you seen what's up on screen as exhibit 33 before?
Yes.
And what do you recognize this?
That's Lieutenant Gallagher.
And what, if anything, does Lieutenant Gallagher have in his hand at the time in this particular case?
The leaf blower.
And what's depicted on the screen, is that a fair and accurate trail of what you memorialized on scene that day with respect to the leaf blower?
Yes.
Ms. Gilman, if you could just run just this one video. Now, with respect to using that leaf blower on scene, Sergeant, what, if anything, did you observe in the snow when that was used to blow away sort of the layers?
It exposed the blood and small drinking glass broken.
And do you see those items in what's frozen up on the screen right now?
I do.
If you could, using that laser point, direct the jury's attention to where you observe each of those items in this video.
So that's the glass right there, and then all the blood droplings.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Ms. Gilman. You can take it. Now, prior to using the leaf blower, what, if anything, did Lieutenant Gallagher instruct you and any other officers to do with regard to your cruisers that were parked on scene?
We needed to move them out of the way. He wanted to be able to get a good shot of the area, so we kind of closed off the road. And
Ms. Gilman, if I could have exhibit 41 back up again. Ms. Gilman, if I could ask you to fast forward on this to about 40 minutes and 30 seconds in. You could pause it right there. Now, Sergeant Good, what's up on screen? Is that the point that you are referencing now as far as about to move your cruiser for that purpose?
this was earlier when we moved out of the way of the ambulance, I believe.
Fine.
Oh, no, could be right.
Regardless, you recognize this to be
Yes, sorry. If you just play for it, I'll know.
I'm sorry. Can you
Just play for it, I guess.
Ms. Gilman, if you could, I'd like to play this through. So about 41 minutes and 12 seconds or so. But if you could just pause it real quick, I'm sorry. Sergeant, at some point when you move this cruiser, what, if anything, you're able to see in this footage of the front lawn area of 34 Fairview?
So my cruiser camera pans the front yard of 34 Fairview, and it shows the snow undisturbed. No footprints, any tracks, anything like that leading anywhere.
And if you could just speak up when we get to that point, and Ms. Gilman, if you could just pause it on that. Pause it right there. Now, the area that you were speaking about before, is this sort of the portion of the video?
Yes.
And using the laser pointer, if you could direct the jury's attention to the portion of the yard that you were talking about in indication of no footprints or anything that you observed that spot.
Right here.
Thank you. Ms. Gilman, if you could just let it run through for a couple more. Thank you, Ms. Gilman. And Ms. Gilman, you can take it down. Now, Sergeant Good, you had spoke about as well some photographs that were taken to memorialize the area of where Mr. O'Keefe was found. Is that correct?
Yes.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as Exhibit 8. That's the first just if you recognize it.
Yes.
And what do you recognize that?
That is 34 Fairview.
And Ms. Gilman, if I could have Exhibit 8 up on the screen. What's up on the screen? Is that a fair and accurate portrayal of what you observed on scene that day?
Yes.
If I could ask you to flip forward in that book before you to Exhibit number 10.
Okay.
And Ms. Gilman, if we could have Exhibit 10. And Sergeant, what's up on the screen? Is that what you have before you with Exhibit 10?
Yes.
And similarly, do you recognize that?
Yes.
And what do you recognize that?
That is a scene where our officers and the witnesses found Officer O'Keefe.
And if you could, using that laser pointer you have before you, direct the jury's attention to where you were directed to where Mr. O'Keefe was found.
Objection, hearsay.
No, I'll allow it.
Go ahead, sir. Now, sir, if I could ask you to flip forward in that book just a little bit more to what's been marked as Exhibit 20A.
Okay.
Ms. Gilman, if I could have that exhibit on the screen as well. If you recognize what's up on the screen as Exhibit 28.
Yes, that's the curbing.
And as far as the curbing is concerned, how is it sort of cleared off in this particular area?
We had to kick it off with our shoe to clear it off so we could actually see it, make a mark of it.
And again, that area that you were directed to, as far as where Mr. O'Keefe was found, you observed that in this photograph, Exhibit 28 as well.
Yes.
You could, using the laser pointer before you, direct the jury's attention to where in this photograph that is. Okay. Now, may I approach this to
Yes.
So lastly, I'm just going to show you what's been marked as Exhibit 27. Sergeant, do you recognize that?
I do.
Ms. Gilman, if we could have 27 on the screen. And Sergeant Good, what's up on the screen and before you as Exhibit 27? Sorry, what's up on the screen, is that what you have before you as Exhibit 27?
Yes.
And if you could describe to the jury what we're looking at in this.
So we have the blood And then right here is the broken drinking glass that was located.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
May I approach just to retrieve?
Yes.
See, they found blood. They found blood and a clear drinking glass, but no red taillight pieces. Imagine that. Because there was none there. There was none there. Until they confiscated her vehicle, and then they sprinkled it all over the ground so they could find it 2 weeks later,
Can I
put
have
some
this
in his
moment
clothes, so they could say that they found some in his clothes to frame her. It was a crappy investigation, period. And what's sad is,
Following your time on scene that morning, sir, where did you go from there?
what's sad is, okay, she already had, this is her. This is the lady that they're trying to accuse. So this case really drives me crazy. Any case like this drives me nuts. But so they had a tent in the car. They had a tent in the car. They could have placed over the scene. You're right. Where's the tent? Because they should have been sifting the snow like they sift the dirt, right? They should have been doing that instead of blowing, evidence all over the place, because you don't know what's attached to the snow. I mean, shoot. Make sure that you have an evidence collecting kit. Every officer should have one in their car, just in case, because you are a first responder. None of them had collection cups. Oh, well, we had some at the lab, we had swabby things, You could have put the coagulated blood samples in the little swabby things and then send it to the lab. That would be smarter than having them exposed in red Solo cups in a Stop and Shop bag. And you don't even put it in the freezer. You put it behind her vehicle with a rag. A rag that has brown stains on it that might be blood. I don't know how they got DNA. I don't know how the DNA didn't wash away with the snow when they collected her car. I don't know, but for them to only find his DNA on the outside of the tail light, they didn't find tail light pieces. Blood or anything on the inside. It was all on the outside, right? The FBI even got involved in this case. Supposedly the case is closed. I don't know. But this case and the Sandra Birchmore case, I don't know if you've heard that, but the FBI got involved because, they think there was some fuckery afoot. The FBI don't get involved unless, they think something's going on. They had hired some independent, unbiased experts and said, hey, can you tell us if this is possible, that he was hit 22 miles an hour going backwards and only the taillight being busted, and he's dead. He has no injuries below his face except for his arm, where it looks like a dog got him. And they're trying to discredit them, saying, oh, well, they didn't know about the DNA. Well, you can explain that DNA bullshit away because they lived together most of the week. She spent maybe she spent from Friday to probably Monday, Tuesday at his house, and then went home to her own house for a few days out of the week. They said, oh, well, she got in a fight with them last night. Which, No, there's no sign of that, by the way. Yes, she was driving drunk. Yes, that's a no-no, right? I don't know why they didn't charge her with DUI, but because they're trying to get her with all this other dumb shit. And that's what she really hired and she was like thinking, well, why would they take my car? And she knew she hit something. She just didn't know what, because she was already, I mean, she was still drunk. They illegally took her blood or her and tried to I can't remember what they did, but it's some kind of test, right? And to go backwards to see what her alcohol blood level was around 12 o'clock at night. Well, okay, they say this happened at 12:45. She was home. She was home at 12:36. She was back at his house, hooked to his Wi-Fi at 12:36. They got the kids involved. It's a whole mess. Like, they're really trying to deem her guilty when she's not guilty, because they don't want to look at their own. They don't want to look at their own. And the one cop, the owner of the house, he's known to be a violent drunk. He sucker punched one of his coworkers being drunk one time. Yeah. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's just, this case is wild. Like, so they started with the firefighters or fire paramedics and all that stuff, saying, oh, I heard her say, I hit him. But you weren't even around her. Like, the video shows you weren't around her. And all we hear is he dead? Is he dead? Just worried if he's dead or not, if he's alive. Out of her mind. Only one going crazy. She ran on top of him, trying to get him warm, lifted up his shirt and her shirt, trying to get body heat to him, doing CPR. Her face was all bloody because she was doing CPR on him. While the one girl's dinking around, whatever the hell she's doing. And for them to pick up his cell phone and not leave it there for the cops to get is beyond me too. And they say, oh, he never went in the house, but his Apple Health data showed he walked 80 steps and descended 3 flights of stairs. They're thinking it's the basement. A lot of people think it's the basement. How can you walk 80 when she's already gone? How can you walk 80 steps and 3 flights of stairs down when she's gone, or she's out in her car? She didn't even get out. She hasn't even left yet. And when there was one dude that was coming to pick up his sister, he only seen her in the car, didn't see him. Didn't see nobody. Yeah. She tried to save his life. While the sister-in-law was dinking around, trying to call her brother and sister, her brother and sister-in-law, doing whatever the fuck she was doing, and they finally told her, call 911 for fuck's sakes, because she actually was trying to call him at the time she found him. And it went to voicemail, and they caught it on his voicemail. They're saying, get blankets, get blankets. Like, she's dinking around trying to call somebody. And she says, they didn't answer. Just explaining it away. It's just so weird. This case is so freaking weird. And another thing is, a lot of people deem her guilty because of the way she looks. The girl's got MS. I'd be giving the daggers too. If you trying to frame me, if you're trying to railroad me. Yeah. She called, like, I think she tried to call her sister and brother-in-law right before she called 911, and then she called them afterwards, like, and then she doesn't even say, like, oh, you know, we found my friend passed out in the snow. She says, oh, there's a man down in the snow. It's crazy. And then at the end, she's like, oh, yeah, it's John O'Keefe. Da, 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 da. And then they try to pin it on her saying, oh, he got hit by a plow. She was thinking the worst. Of course she was. He didn't come home. She was drunk still. We think the worst, you know, sometimes. Shit. We're women.
Once we cleared 34 Fairview, I returned to the Canton Police Department.
And the items that you were talking about as far as the blood, which you believe to be blood droplets in the snow and the piece of a cocktail glass, what, if anything, did you or other officers do with regard to that?
Overruled.
Go ahead.
Detective Sergeant Lank transported those back to the police department.
Again, just one moment, Sean.
Okay.
And I'm sorry, but like, you hiding phone calls, you hiding phones, you doing all this stuff that you say Karen Read, she has consciousness of guilt, all this stuff, but she hands over everything you asked her to, but she doesn't talk to you. And then when you arrest her for second-degree murder, and she's like, oh, she was like, we're all in on the same joke, right? My taillight is cracked and John's pulverized. You know, Colin and Brian beat him up, right? She said that. And he was like, you should stop talking now. Why? Because she's exposing the truth? You only want a suspect to, you know, open up and talk to you if they're spilling on somebody else, but not your own. Not your own. God forbid if it's your own, right? Dirty.
I have nothing further for this witness, Your Honor.
All right. Mr. Yannetti?
Thank you, Your Honor.
Just wait for this, Cold Pepsi. He's going to expose him right now. He's going to perjure him right now. Or impeach him right now.
Good afternoon, Sergeant.
Afternoon.
Sir, you and I have never met, correct?
No.
We've never spoken.
No.
Sergeant Good, you grew up in Canton.
I did.
You attended Canton Public Schools.
I did.
You graduated from Canton High School.
I did.
That would have been in 1998.
They don't waste no time either.
Is it true that in your graduating class was somebody named Courtney Proctor?
Yes.
You knew Courtney Proctor?
Yes.
You knew her to be Michael Proctor's sister, correct?
Yes.
Also in your graduating class was somebody named Jill Daniels, correct?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I got it wrong. Okay. Courtney Proctor is the head detective, the lead detective on this case that lost his job. Courtney Proctor was the lead detective's sister. Jill Daniels is the brother's wife. So the other sister-in-law. That's her sister.
You knew her, or you now know her, to be Christopher Albert's sister-in-law, correct?
Yes.
Christopher Albert is married to Jill Daniels' sister, correct?
Yes.
And you know Christopher Albert as Brian Albert's brother, correct?
Yes.
So it is fair to say that you graduated high school with Michael Proctor's sister and Christopher Albert's sister-in-law, correct?
Yes.
And, you know, growing up in Canton and, you know, working for 18 years as a Canton police officer, you're well familiar with the Albert family of Canton, correct?
And Jill Daniels is best friends with Jen McCabe.
I work with one of them.
You know that the Albert family is a well-known family in Canton, correct?
Sure.
The Albert family is well connected to the town of Canton, correct?
I don't know what you mean by connected. They live in Canton.
Oh, yeah, no, they're well connected because Chris Albert is a select boardman and Brian Albert, they all grew up there. Oh, you're well connected. Just wait for Link.
Yes.
All right, well, Christopher Albert is a Canton town selectman, is he not?
Yes.
And
I
you've
just
already
said that.
established that Kevin Albert is a Canton police officer, correct?
Yes.
And you already testified that you knew Brian Albert as well, and you knew that he was a Boston police officer who lived in Canton, correct?
Yep.
Yes.
In fact, he and his family lived at 34 Fairview in Canton, correct?
Yes.
All their life.
You also knew that his family had been there for years before Brian Albert.
Oh, another weird thing in the story, Cold Pepsi, is Brian Albert, the homeowner, you know, where John O'Keefe, the other officer, lost his life on his lawn. He rehomed his home, his family home that he grew up in, right after this. He rehomed his dog. He rehomed his phone. He rehomed his house. You know, if that ain't consciousness of guilt, I don't know what is.
Owned the house. His parents owned it, correct?
Yes.
Now, as of January 28th of 2022, who among the Albert family did you know either personally or professionally?
Professionally is Kevin Albert.
Okay. And what about personally?
I knew Chris.
And you know that Christopher Albert, in addition to being a town selectman, also
And Christopher Albert also has a son that had beef with the person that's dead on his brother's lawn. That's a cop. Yeah.
owns a pizza place in Canton, correct?
Yes, he does.
What's the name of that pizza place?
That'd be D&E.
And have you eaten there before?
Yes,
You've seen Christopher Albert there before?
I have.
30.
Now, on January 29th of 2022, you learned at approximately 6 a.m.
Okay. Cold Pepsi, this is the worst case I've seen since. I mean, yeah, we've seen ASAP Rocky, ASAP, but and YSL, right? This is the worst since freaking OJ, and even he got off, and he was guilty. All the evidence, you know, not being marked, all that, you know, chain of custody shit. The cops are racist type shit. This is just as bad, except for, well, we don't know if the cops are racist. They might as well be. They act like a mob. Yeah, this case it kind of gives me deja vu to the O.J. Simpson case.
That John O'Keefe's body was found on Brian Albert's.
Because the matter of fact, because the O.J. Simpson case is the reason why they have to keep chain of custody so knit tight, so they don't let, you know, guilty off. But we all get that benefit of the doubt. If we have doubt in our mind that she caused the death, we got to give her that benefit. Guilty. Like, I don't know if they really got in a fight or whatever. Like, I don't know anything. All I know is some bullshit's going on. They all know each other. You got the lead detective. He threw his whole career away for this. But I guarantee you, nobody in that house that he's trying to protect or whatever may be would do the same thing for him. I guarantee it.
Front lawn, correct?
Yes.
And as of January 29th of 2022, you knew that Brian Albert at that time, of course, was the brother of your fellow Canton police officer, Kevin Albert, correct?
Yes.
And how long have you known Kevin Albert for?
As long as I worked at the Camp Police Department.
So dirty.
And that is approximately 18 years?
Coming up in 18 years, yes.
And is Kevin Albert older or younger than you or around the same age?
He's older than me.
By how many years, if you know?
I don't. Probably
Approximately?
5 years?
Have you ever shared a patrol car with Kevin Albert?
No.
Have you ever worked on an investigation or a case with Kevin Albert?
I probably have. Yeah.
In addition to being a colleague, would you also consider Kevin Albert to be a friend?
Yeah. We've socially hung out after work.
And because he is a fellow Canton police officer, you'd expect that he would have your back in a crisis, correct?
Objection, Your Honor.
No, I'll let him have it.
I hope he would defend me while working. Yes, he's a police officer.
You would certainly protect him in a crisis, correct?
At work, when we're police officers, yes.
Sure. Well, even out of work, if he was in a crisis, you'd probably help, correct?
I don't know what you're asking.
Well, there is a teamwork that is part and parcel of being a police officer with your fellow officers, correct?
Sure.
It's a dangerous job.
Sure.
You need to have each other's back.
Sure.
You need to depend on your fellow officers, correct?
Let's
Sure.
And
Let's go,
there's a
Debs.
brotherhood among police officers, correct?
To a fact.
And, when you meet another police officer, he or she will tell you that they're, quote, on the job, correct?
Objection, Your Honor.
The objection sustained.
He still got the question in.
And in terms of, depending on your fellow officers, you're taught all this beginning in the police academy, correct?
Objection.
No, he can have that.
What am I taught?
Well, I'm asking you. With regard to the teamwork and
Preserving
having each other's
teamwork.
backs and, working together and depending on each other, you're taught that starting in,
Sure.
and it's reinforced over the years by superior officers and your colleagues.
Even
correct?
that's what
Sure.
I'm saying.
Now,
That is exactly what I'm saying. When they busted out that leaf blower and you didn't see no tail light pieces anywhere, that's when I was like, okay, you see blood. You would see tail light pieces. It was only 3 to 5 inches of snow. It wasn't that deep. But yet you find tail light pieces, one of his shoes and his hat, all in 1.5 feet of snow. Get out of here. Because it didn't start really coming down until after 7 o'clock. Oh, hold on.
you were assigned as the primary investigator in the reconstruction analysis for this case, correct?
Assigned as the what?
You were assigned as the primary investigator in the reconstruction analysis for this
Red
case.
solo cups and
I
leaf
don't know
blowers.
reconstruction analysis. No, I was the patrol supervisor that day.
Let me just have a moment, Ron.
Okay.
Let's see where we're at. I've already been on here for an hour. Oh my God. I didn't
May I approach?
realize it was
Yes.
this long.
Directing to page 5.
Maybe I should stop stopping it. Huh?
Now, I'm going to show you
Yeah.
what is, not sure how many pages, but there are quite a few.
Okay.
It's a
that leaf,
Your Honor, if you could not describe what he showed.
that whole leaf blower shit is fucking wild. Like you should be sifting through the snow like it was dirt. You should have pans, but you're gonna blow. Oh, I just blew the top of the snow away layer by layer, to expose the blood-soaked snow and da-da-da. And we went to the neighbor and asked for red solo cups. It was a wrap when they said that shit. I went, what? Because I wasn't in this whole she was framed shit, right? I wasn't believing that. But when I started watching it and more was coming out, I'm like, wow. And then when I get to Jen McCabe's fucking on the stand shit, that shit, I couldn't stand her. I was like, get her the fuck off the stand. Because she was so evasive. She wouldn't answer yes or no questions. She had to go wide, Uh-oh. Human remains found. Near 40 to 20 large. Anyways. Wow, that's like a desolate place. Anyways, but yeah, like it just wait. If you guys, come along with me on this journey, just wait till we get to her testimony.
Going to the witness and
Just
show
go
it
ahead
to
and
him.
show it to him.
Sure. I'm going to direct you, I'm taking up the first 4 pages and directing you just to the 5th page.
Okay.
And specifically the second paragraph, and it's numbered number 2.
Okay.
And I will ask you if you've seen that before.
We gotta get through lengths. So okay, the rest of the bullshit, the cops that are protecting their own the Canton cops, we got to get through Sergeant Length. Then I believe it's the people that were at the waterfall with them that night, trying to paint a scene. Then we get to the Albert clan, and then Jen McCabe comes on. Then I think Brian Albert is after her. Then Brian Higgins. Yeah. when Brian Albert, Brian Higgins, Colin Albert, those three are who they say possibly could have done something. Let's put it like that. And what's funny is, you know, they tested his arm for dog DNA, but they didn't take, you know, they didn't take tissue samples. By the way, they took swabs and 2 swabs on every one. Not in, you know, 1 swab on you know, not did it twice. They did 2 swabs, you know, and then did it that way, you know, because they couldn't waste their time on some shit like that, you know. And sent it off, and all that came up was some pig DNA, which was mind-boggling to me. And then but they didn't produce the dog because they rehomed the dog. Yeah, she goes.
Okay.
And I'll take it back from you.
Okay.
Like, I know she looks evil and shit, but I would be looking evil too if you fucking lied on me and my boyfriend's dead and you're making me spend millions of dollars on my defense. Now, I mean, not once did she have to go into debt. She's got to go into debt twice now because she's got another trial coming up because they couldn't get a conviction. They hung when they should have freaking gave her the when they didn't know what happened and they were trying to solve the case, which they're not allowed to. They should have fucking found her not guilty on all 3 charges.
Sure.
Thank you. Do you recognize what this is?
Looks like some.
Yeah, pig DNA. It could have been pizza. It could have been dog treats. Who knows? You know what I mean? Like, but pig DNA on his, and they didn't swab his arms. Okay, they didn't swab his arms or anything. They swabbed his clothes. They swabbed his clothes, not his wounds. Not, you know, not something normal like a normal person would do, you know, like when, you know, you go to the autopsy and you tell them what to do and shit, you know, that type of shit. They ain't doing all that. They ain't telling them, oh, well, could you collect tissue samples for me? Can you do this? Can you do that? No, they didn't do that. And you know what's funny is their medical examiner, she said, it's undetermined because I can't tell how he died. I can't tell if it was homicide, you know, but it wasn't natural by any means, but it was undetermined because I couldn't tell the manner. And it was blunt force trauma was the cause of death. Okay, blunt force trauma, right? Well, they asked her about it being in a car accident, and she says those aren't the typical injuries you see in a car accident. No. What about being in a fight? She's like, might be.
State police form.
Okay. Is it a?
Why don't you not ask him? He just answered what he thought it was.
Are you familiar with a collision analysis and reconstruction section of KARE's report?
I know the state police has a KARES section that handles motor vehicle homicide.
Does this appear to be a KARES report?
I've never seen one. You showed me one. I'm not in the state police.
But you did see that your name is listed in the paragraph that I pointed out to you?
Sure.
And you're listed as Sergeant Sean Good, that's you, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Of the Canton Police, who were assigned as the primary investigator in this reconstruction.
Because I wrote the offense report from that day.
Well, I'm just asking you. I'm dealing with the state police report that lists you as the primary investigator with regard to the reconstruction.
Objection, Your Honor. May we approach?
Sustained. Sure, why don't you all come up for a minute? Bring that, please.
See, and I don't like that she has to have a sidebar for every time they object and whatever. Like, I think that should be like in the open, but they don't want it to affect the jury type shit. And I don't like the brother sitting right next to Karen's table and staring at the jury and shit. I don't like that. Get. I just don't like that. You're not supposed to eat in the thingy bobber, dude. Like I don't like it that they keep on showing him. And they put on this, like the mother's always see, and this is another thing that affects the jury. When you have them right across the way of where you're sitting so they can see all their emotion coming down their faces and all this stuff, being upset, and you of course you're human. You feel bad for them. But getting somebody justice isn't convicting the wrong person. You get what I'm saying? Like,
Sergeant Good, what was your understanding on February 1st,
yeah, I was the one without
2022
glasses.
regarding the Canton Police Department's role in this homicide
Oh,
investigation?
I wasn't even on camera.
I believe at some point on the 29th,
It's the one
we
without
recused
glasses.
ourselves and we weren't part of the investigation.
Oh, so you did know as of the day that John O'Keefe was found on Brian Albert's front lawn that the Canton Police had recused itself from the case, correct?
At some point, I was notified after I finished all my paperwork. Yeah.
And what was your understanding of the recusal decision in terms of what the Canton Police was either allowed to do or not?
Well, he had passed away, so now no matter what, it's state police investigation. It's a homicide. We do not investigate homicides.
Well,
Yet you have her vehicle in your Sally port. That's what you call a garage. You have her vehicle in the Sally port at your fucking police department, not at the Massachusetts State Police, not in their Sally port. You have it there. You're supposedly helping them conduct interviews, yet you're not recording them. You're not doing CCTV because why? Oh, well, we had to recuse ourselves, so we couldn't do it in the ones with the CCTV, right? Because you were concocting a story.
you've been a Canton police officer for 18 years, correct?
Yes.
During those 18 years, do you know how many homicide investigations have occurred in Canton?
None.
None?
Homicides? No. I was involved in none.
That the department was involved in.
I can't think off the top of my head, no.
So in the 18 years, this is the
Ha! Yeah, you want to know how many I know for sure that their department has been involved in? 2. This one and Sandra Birchmore, which both have sketchy outcomes that involve police officers. Yep. Mm-hmm.
the first homicide that your department's been involved in, to your knowledge?
Yes.
Okay.
What about Sandra Birchmore, sir? Did you forget about her? Oh, did you forget about that there was a fake case in hers too? Because of the shoddy investigation that you guys did? And turns out that one of your own was arrested for her unaliving? That you try to make look like a self-harm one? Yeah.
Are you aware that although the state police have primary jurisdiction, they work hand in hand with local departments, usually, unless there's a conflict of interest?
Yes.
So in this case, you learned that there was a conflict of interest. And my question to you is, what did that mean in terms of your potential involvement in the investigation once that conflict was determined?
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained.
Were you the primary investigator for the Canton Police Department as of February 1st?
No.
Did you participate with the state police in any part of the reconstruction?
No.
Now, Sergeant Good, who is Brian Higgins?
He is a ATF agent that has a satellite office out of the Canton Police Department.
And when did you come to meet him?
Oh, there's another thing. Brian Higgins, the one that was texting Karen and she ghosted him for like 2 weeks, and then he sees her at the bar and he's like, well, and then he's trying to call John on that night before they left. And then he texts John and says, "Are you coming here?" Oh, that Brian Higgins? Oh, yeah, I forgot. He's an ATF agent that fucking has an office at your fucking police department. Yeah, it's riddled with conflict of interest and bias in this freaking case.
I have no idea when he started. It's been years.
Years, over a decade?
I don't think so, but maybe.
Between 5 and 10 years?
Sure.
And how often would you see him at the Canton Police Station?
I worked midnights, so during that time, but I mean, 3 times a week I would see him. I mean, but we don't have the same work schedule. I don't know when he works. He doesn't know when I do.
Okay. And when you say you work midnights, that means you come in at midnight?
Yes.
At 8 a.m.?
Correct.
And he works in the same building as you in terms of the fact that he has an office there, correct?
Yes.
Are there any other ATF agents that have offices at the Canton?
There could be. They don't check in with us.
Do you know of any ATF agents that have offices at the Canton Police Department?
Not that I know of, no.
What about
Well, then
officers
that
from
would be
other
no.
local departments, surrounding towns? Do they have any offices at the Canton Police Department?
No.
And you're not sure exactly how long he's had that office for, but it's been years.
Correct.
He has his own key card to enter the building?
Yes.
And you say you've seen him 2 or 3 times a week in the time that he's had an office there?
Sure.
You're aware that Brian Higgins is a close friend of the former Canton Police Chief, Kenneth Berkowitz?
Sure.
You know that Chief Berkowitz was the reason that he was allowed to maintain an office at the Canton Police Department?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Yes, the chief of
Well,
police. Yes. Yes.
His close
Your
friend,
chief of
Chief
police.
Berkowitz, was your boss on January 29th of 2022, correct?
His close friend?
Yeah, Brian Higgins' close friend, Chief Berkowitz, was your boss on January 29th of 2022.
Okay.
And does okay mean yes?
Yes.
And you worked the midnight shift that day as well?
No.
What was your shift?
I took it off.
Were you assigned to dispatch that day?
The night of the incident?
Yes.
No, I stayed inside. I was inside.
Inside where?
The dispatch. I handle all the calls, send the guys
All
everywhere.
right, that was my question. I'm sorry if I'm not being clear, but
Yeah, he was
were on duty.
but you
correct?
Yes.
just didn't want to hear.
What was your shift?
My shift was I stayed inside,
I'm sorry, what was the timing of your shift?
12 to 8.
Thank you. And when you say you stayed inside, that meant you were handling dispatch, correct?
Correct.
So
And
then why
when you're
were you?
handling dispatch,
Okay, wait,
you're
hold
not
on.
expected.
So you were handling dispatch between 12 and 8. Then why the fudge are you going to 34 Fairview that morning when you were inside, sir?
To leave the
Gotcha.
station and physically respond to calls that come in, correct?
It depends on the call. Anything within reason that a supervisor should go, I'm leaving the station.
Lies.
But,
Normal car accidents, stuff like that patrol can handle, no.
okay, so unless it's something unusual, you're going to stay at dispatch, correct?
Correct.
And just after 1:30 a.m. while you were
How's
working
anybody
dispatch, that's
supposed
when
to
you saw
answer
Brian
for it?
Higgins enter the Canton Police Station at 1:30 in the morning, correct?
Correct.
Come into the dispatch area.
I said that earlier. I don't remember him coming in, or just did I see him on the cameras walking down the hallway? We have I think we have 7 or 8 monitors in front of me that I'm able to watch people around our building.
So it could be that you just saw him on.
Wait, how are you supposed to watch 7 or 8? Okay, let's talk about this. 7 or 8 monitors, but yet how did you see the footage when supposedly the cameras were all fucked up? Sir? Hey, but you got a clear view of the whole Canton Police Department? Fuckery afoot.
A screen, or it could be that he was in your room.
Correct.
But you don't remember which, correct?
Correct.
And before he showed up there at 1:30, you hadn't called him to ask him to come in, correct?
No.
You hadn't asked him for any help with any investigation at 1:30, correct?
No.
When you first saw him there at 1:30, did you have any idea why he was showing up?
But I'm still here. I'll be in the chat.
And when you first saw him,
Oh,
do you remember what entrance he used to come into the Canton Police Station?
I don't. It was from the back parking lot. I don't know if he was on the left back rear or right back rear.
And you would agree with me that 1:30 in the morning was hours before John O'Keefe was found unresponsive on Brian Albert's front lawn, correct?
Yes.
You had no
and he didn't see a
information
body.
at 1:30 in the morning that John O'Keefe was out on Brian Albert's front lawn at that time, correct?
Correct.
And when Brian Higgins entered the department, that was the first time you had seen him on either the 28th or the 29th, correct?
Correct.
And this is again at 1:30 in the morning.
Mhm.
And
Yes.
you have to say yes or no.
Yes.
You didn't know where he was coming from?
No,
You didn't know what he had done that night?
absolutely not.
You didn't know who he had been with that night?
No,
This was a Friday night into early Saturday morning with a major blizzard forecast.
correct.
It already started snowing.
Yes,
It was supposed to get worse.
yes.
Was it unusual to see Brian Higgins come into the station at 1:30 a.m. on a weekend?
No,
And you don't recall how close you got to him.
no,
Are you able to tell this jury anything about his demeanor?
no. He just walked in. It's not unusual. We wouldn't have made pleasantries or say hello to each other. It's not uncommon.
And you don't recall whether or not you got close enough to him to smell his breath or to smell what he smelled like, correct?
No,
At any point, did he tell you why he was there?
no,
How long did he remain at the station for?
no idea. I only saw him come in, never saw him leave or anything like that.
Did you ever see him do any paperwork at the station?
That night?
Yes.
No,
Did you ever see him do any administrative work at the station?
I can't leave the dispatch room. His office is out on the second floor.
So let's skip ahead a few hours later. You're still working dispatch when a call came in that a man was found unresponsive on Brian Albert's front lawn, correct?
Yes,
It's just after 6 a.m.
yes,
You yourself took that call?
I did.
And with regard to who is responsible for entering the information that came in on a call to dispatch, who is that?
The person that's working the desk.
So at 6 a.m., you were responsible for taking down the information and entering it into your system, correct?
It's being recorded through the 911 dispatch, correct? But I didn't enter it into our IMC program, which is our daily log.
Okay, who enters that into your daily log?
That'd be the person that's working the desk.
And you had previously testified that location is important, correct?
Correct.
You would discuss the fact that if a call comes in on a cell phone as opposed to a landline, you want to know where that cell phone is, correct?
Yes,
And you have ways of pinging the cell phone such that you can actually see the location on a map, correct?
sure, yes,
And you would agree with me that ultimately when the location was entered into your system, the location was entered as 32 Fairview, correct?
no, it was 34. At least we put it out as 34.
34 was the actual address, but 32 is what made it into the police report, sir, did it not?
No, my police report says 34 Fairview.
Now, when that call came in after 6 a.m., you decided that you would personally go out, correct?
Yes,
Okay. I actually have the front page of your police report. May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes. Show Mr. Lally.
thank you.
I'd ask you to read that silently to yourself, take a good look at it, and look up at me when you're done. And you've had enough time to review it?
Yes,
Getting back to the location, which you said was important, what is the location listed in your very police report?
on the face sheet, it says 32, but in my narrative is 34.
Oh, the face sheet is important, is it not?
Yes,
People see the face sheet before they get to the narrative, correct?
sure.
Is accuracy important?
Yes,
And the very first thing that's entered with regard to the location is inaccurate, right?
say it again.
The very first entry with regard to the location on your police report on the face sheet is inaccurate. Would you agree with that?
I guess so, yes.
And with regard to the name down the bottom of that report, I left the report in front of you so you can look at it again. Would you read that silently to yourself and look up at me?
Okay,
Does that refresh your memory as to what name is listed?
yes.
What name is that?
John O'Keefe?
I can have that back for a minute. Okay. Now, you decided that you wanted to go to the call, or you decided it would be a good thing for you to go to the call personally, correct?
Yes,
So you called Officer Kelly Deaver into dispatch,
I did.
and you did that because you wanted her to cover the desk for you so that you could personally respond to the call, correct?
Correct.
Responding to the call wasn't your duty assignment, but you made it your duty assignment, correct?
Correct.
And if you were going to leave, somebody had to cover.
Correct.
After that, you personally called two of your other colleagues who were not on duty that night to respond with you to Brian Albert's house, correct?
Yes, I did.
And you previously testified, I believe, that Sergeant Michael Lank was one of those officers, and he arrived at 6:25 a.m., correct?
Correct.
And then Lieutenant Paul Gallagher was the other officer, and he arrived closer to 7 a.m., correct?
Yes.
When you responded to 34 Fairview on January 29th, did you know that residence?
Yes.
And what did you know that residence to be?
I knew that to be Brian Albert's house.
You and Sergeant Lank had both been to that residence before, correct?
No.
Together.
Actually, we have. We were there for a police report years ago.
And so when you decided to respond to the scene on January 29th, that residence of 34 Fairview, you knew exactly where you were going.
Yes.
And when you got there, you knew you were outside the home of Boston Officer Brian Albert, correct?
Yes.
And this was a memorable event. Would you agree with me?
Yes.
Before January 29th of 2022, you had never responded to a call where the body of one police officer was found on the front lawn of another police officer's house, correct?
Yes.
And at some point after you arrived, you saw both Sergeant Lank and Detective Gallagher arrive, correct?
Yes.
It was Sergeant Lank who first entered the home and made initial contact with Brian Albert and his family?
No, I was right next to him.
So is it your testimony that the first time the police went in the house, you were there with Sergeant Lank?
Yes.
All right. And when you went in, can I have Exhibit 8 on the screen, please? Okay. Terrific. You're able to see Exhibit 8?
Yes.
Is that a fair depiction of what the house looked like when you entered it?
Yes.
Did you see the front door?
Yes.
Is that the door that you entered?
Yes.
And you had testified that you looked around the immediate area where you were while Sergeant Lank was asking questions. You noticed that when you entered that front door, you come into a foyer area, and directly in front of you on the left, you can almost reach out and touch. There's a door that goes down to the cellar, is there not?
I don't know. I don't remember a door there. I remember the stairs going up to the second floor.
I see. So you don't remember that as you step into the house, you can go down a cellar door right away?
Objection.
No, I don't know where the cellar is.
The objection sustained.
You don't know where the cellar is, and that's in part because you did not go down to the cellar, correct?
Correct.
You never examined it?
No.
You never saw what condition it was in?
No.
Saw whether there was any signs of struggle down there?
No.
Never saw if anything was tipped over?
No.
You never saw whether there was any blood or other trace evidence down there?
Objection, Your Honor.
The objection sustained. You've made your point. Can we turn the lights back on, please? Do you need this, Ms. Gianetti?
I do not.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, now going back to when you first arrived, Sergeant, you were alone in your cruiser, correct?
Yes.
You weren't driving with a partner that morning?
No.
You were the second officer on scene?
No. Third.
Who got there before you did?
Officer Saraf and Officer Mulaney.
Okay, so Mulaney actually beat you there?
Yes.
But only within a matter of minutes, correct?
Sure.
You arrived in your marked cruiser, correct?
Yes.
You had your overhead emergency lights on, correct?
Correct.
You pulled up right in the front of the house, facing in the wrong direction in terms of the lane that you were in?
Correct.
You were parked on Fairview, adjacent to the Albert residence, and you were facing towards Cedar Crest, correct?
Correct.
When you parked, you left your motor running, correct?
Yes.
And when you got out of your cruiser, one prominent sound that you heard was Karen Reed screaming at the top of her lungs, correct?
Yes.
She appeared to be in distress.
Correct.
She appeared to be crying.
I did not see her crying.
She was hysterical.
Yes.
She was very loud.
Yes.
And you could hear her yelling throughout that morning, could you not?
Correct.
After you got there, other emergency vehicles showed up?
No.
Did you see any other cruisers show up?
If you want to call it an unmarked detective pickup truck or cruiser, sure.
Okay, so there was one additional police vehicle that showed up?
Sergeant Lang arrived in that, and then Lieutenant Paul Gallagher arrived in his unmarked cruiser.
Okay, so two additional vehicles. And also Officer Saraf's vehicle was there?
And Mulaney's, correct.
And Mulaney. So we're now up to 4 police vehicles on scene?
Yes.
They all had their lights on?
No. Detective Sergeant Lanks does not have any lights in it, and neither did Paul Gallagher's lights were not activated, I believe.
I see. So you and Saraf and Mulaney had your lights on?
Correct.
And I actually miscounted. That would be 5 police vehicles, correct?
Sure.
All right. 3 with their lights on. What about ambulances?
There were 2 ambulances that showed up, one for the first transport of Officer O'Keefe and second for Miss Reed, but they were never there at the same time.
All right. When you first got there, was the first ambulance there?
It was.
And that ambulance also had its lights on?
Yes.
How many fire trucks were there when you were there?
Just one.
And that also had its lights on as well?
Correct.
And engine running?
Yes.
And everyone was essentially parked around and in front of 34 Fairview, correct?
Correct.
And all the while, the first responders are talking over the noise of the storm, correct?
Yes.
And they're also talking over the screaming by Karen Reed, correct?
Sure.
At one point, Terry Roberts even yelled at Karen, and I apologize for the language, but she yelled at her to shut the fuck up, correct?
I have no idea. I don't recall that.
The scene was very chaotic. Would you agree?
Oh, yes.
All right. Could I have Exhibit 16 on the screen, please?
Yet Brian Albert, a first responder, didn't come out of his house with all that going on.
Okay.
Imagine
Now-
that. Why?
This has previously been admitted as sort of a side-to-side comparison between your cruiser dash cam and Officer Saraf's dash cam.
Okay.
And they've been synchronized.
Okay.
If we could start at 9 minutes in, please.
Do I need to remove myself? Let me remove myself.
So, Ms. Giannetti, this is not yet in evidence.
I had it as Exhibit 16. Am I
Right.
correct?
Right. So it's not in yet.
I see. With regard to your dash cam, sir, do you recognize the bottom video here as depicting your view as you were driving to the scene?
Sure.
And that appears to be a fair and accurate representation of what was shown to you on direct examination with regard to your
I
dash
might
cam?
have to
Yes.
move this. Hold on.
Continue.
See if we can see it.
Okay, we can pause it there. Would you agree with me, Sergeant Good, that you're arriving on scene at approximately 6:16 a.m. on January 29th?
Yes.
And I'd ask you to review and compare your dash cam video with the top dash cam video for the next 30 seconds or a minute, please. And I'll
Okay.
ask some questions after that.
Sure.
I'll move that there.
Can you pause it? Sergeant Good, does it appear as though the top dash cam shows the exact same thing as the bottom dash cam, just from a different vantage point?
Yes.
Can you play it for another 20, 30 seconds? Pause it there. Were you able to see that when people are moving, or when somebody's moving in the top version, they're also moving in the bottom version, just again from different vantage points?
Yes.
So do these both appear to be fair and accurate representations of the dash cams that were going on at that time?
Yes.
I would offer that, Your Honor.
Okay. I'd like to see counsel sidebar for just 1 second on this.
Of course you would. Why? Because you don't like that they do this. You don't like that they're synchronizing the videos. You don't like that, Judge. Fuck out of here. She hates that.
Okay, we can take that off the screen. Thank you. Now, Sergeant Good,
She made him take it off.
testified that you got there at about 6:16 a.m. and relying on Exhibit 16 that I placed before you, correct?
Okay, yes,
You stayed on scene for over an hour and 40 minutes. Would you agree with that?
yes,
You left maybe around 7:50 a.m. or so?
correct.
And during the
And
beginning
it's still
part
snowing, yes,
of
Kevin.
the 1 hour and 40 minutes that you were on scene,
But not whiteout blizzard conditions like they say. It's coming down. It's just not whiteout blizzard conditions. When they were driving, the only time it was whiteout was when they were going fast. Well, maybe you shouldn't be going fast in the snow like that then. With your lights on, you know? If you didn't have your lights on, you wouldn't be in a whiteout condition. I'm just saying.
with all the vehicles that we've just seen at around 6:16 a.m. and for the first 10, 15 minutes with all those lights flashing, you never saw Brian Albert come out of his house, correct?
Correct.
That's all the Commonwealth proved was it was snowing. That it was snowing. That's what they proved. It was snowing. They didn't prove she hit him with the car. They didn't prove anything else, but it was snowing.
And did you see first responders working on John O'Keefe when you were there?
No,
He had already been loaded into the ambulance at that time?
correct.
So you didn't see him actually being scooped up and put on a stretcher, correct?
I don't recall, no, Houston.
And with regard to the remainder of the time that you were on scene, up until all the way through 7:50 in the morning, did you ever see Brian Albert come out of his home?
No,
Did you ever see anyone come out of the Albert residence?
No.
other than John McCabe and Matt McCabe, no.
Were you aware when you entered the
Jen McKay. Wait,
were
hold
you
on.
aware when you entered the Albert residence?
Wait, who's got a beep honking horns and shit? Anyways, wait, you said Jen McCabe and Matt McCabe? When was this? When did they go in and out of the house, sir? When was that?
Residence that morning.
But
John
a first responder didn't come out. Shut the front door. Shut the front door.
O'Keefe was found on his front lawn wearing only one shoe, black in color.
I was not aware of him missing a shoe, no.
While you were there, you were listening to the questions that Sergeant Lang was asking.
Kevin. You're going to get out of the way? I guarantee that more would be hurt on your body and more would be hurt on my vehicle if I came at you 23 miles an hour. Going backwards, mind you. You have to be a freaking a pro stunt driver and shit to not even end up with no screeching, no tire things, nothing. Not even in halfway in their lawn, like it's just crazy.
Brian Albert,
Yes,
did you ever hear Sergeant Lang ask Brian Albert that morning if he knew where the other shoe was that was black in color?
Objection.
Sustained.
While you were there, ever hear Sergeant Lang ask Brian Albert when he learned that John O'Keefe was lying on his front lawn?
Objection.
Sustained.
You
Why
knew
is
that Brian
that
Albert,
relevant?
as a Boston police officer, is a first responder, correct?
yes,
All police officers are first responders, correct?
yes,
You know from your training that all police officers have to receive CPR and other necessary training to be first responders, correct?
yes.
At any point in time, did you ask Brian Albert why he didn't come out of his house?
No,
Did Sergeant Lang, in your presence, ask him why he didn't come out of his house?
Objection.
Sustained.
After clearing the scene at 7:50 in the morning, did you go back to the station?
I did.
Do you know whether or not Kevin Albert was working that day?
I don't.
Did you see Kevin Albert that day?
I don't recall seeing him.
Like I
You
said,
speak with
Kevin, it
Kevin Albert
reminds
that
me
day.
of the OJ
No.
case.
Now, since that day, it's been
And the reason why OJ was guilty, but it reminds me of that case and why he got off being as guilty as he was, is because of the chain of custody. Remember, all the evidence was all fucked up. The racist cops. Well, this ain't racist cops. It was just the circle of trust to cops, basically, on this case. And they still don't know what reasonable doubt is? Like, mind-boggling. I mean, if you investigated my loved one's death like that, I would be suing the fudge out of you.
Almost 2.5 years. You've continued working on the same police force as Kevin Albert, correct?
Yes.
At some point in time, you and Kevin Albert discussed the fact that you were one of the first responding officers to his brother's home for this tragic incident, correct?
Yes.
It's a very unique situation, correct?
Yes.
Many officers in the department were interested to know what you saw.
I don't know
and
why I
heard that
love
day,
this.
correct?
Like, I just do. I love it. Like, I wanted to be a lawyer, and then I figured I can't lie. So, and then I wanted to be a forensic scientist, but I don't like school. So, you know, I really, I love how they tried to, like, you know, do what they do, you know. Now we got cameras all over the place. Like, you trying to get away with something is going to be hard. But where there is no camera evidence in this case, or, you know, they hold on to this, these videos at the Canton Police Department forever, barely like trickling evidence to them every little bit, you know. This whole case reeks. Like, it should have never came here. Oh, Kevin, is this fucking acting up tonight? Is it stuttering tonight? I wanted to ask because I didn't hook up the Ethernet.
Sure.
At what point in time after January 29th did Kevin Albert broach the topic with you as to what had happened on January 29th?
Objection.
Can you answer that?
Sure. I don't recall ever immediately talking to Kevin Albert about the incident. No.
Right. Well, you had said that you don't recall talking to him that day, but certainly within a couple.
And what's sad is with cops like this could happen to anybody. Just sad.
Couple of weeks, the two of you caught up, correct?
I can't remember. No.
I'm sorry?
I can't recall that. No.
Within a couple of months, you talked about it?
Sure.
And when you say sure, sir, I take that as you're saying, well, if you really want to go there, I'll give you the sure answer. You have to answer yes or no.
Okay. Yes.
So you answer yes or no if you can, and if you can't, you can't. So
Right.
ask the question again, or just move on, please.
Okay. Do you recall where you were when you and Kevin Albert discussed what had happened on January 29th?
No.
Do you recall who else was present?
No.
Do you recall
No.
whether it was in
Of
person
course
or over the
not.
phone?
No.
I don't recall. No.
You certainly told him what you observed and heard that day, correct?
Yes.
Now, when you arrived, you were on scene not only to assist with, first aid and secure the scene, but as a first responder, your job is to assess the situation and also make an initial determination about gathering evidence. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
You'd be on the lookout for any physical evidence, correct?
Yes.
And you'd certainly be on high alert for any individual who made any statement about what may have occurred, correct?
Correct.
That's important not only for treatment purposes of somebody who apparently is hurt, but also for investigative purposes, correct?
Correct.
And again, you were the third officer on the scene by minutes in terms of the other two officers arriving before you, correct?
Yes.
And while you were on scene for over an hour and 40 minutes, and by the way, when I say on scene, it's clear to you that I'm asking you about 34 Fairview, correct?
Yes.
There was no scene at the Canton Police Department, correct?
No, I'm talking about 34 Fairview.
Of course. A scene is where something happened, correct?
Yes.
While you were on scene at 34 Fairview for an hour and 40 minutes, did you ever once hear KARENREAD say, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him?
I did not.
And you wrote a report regarding this, correct?
I did.
You are trained over your 18 years that you include every important detail in that report, correct?
Correct.
Certainly a statement by KARENREAD screaming out, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him, would have been an important detail that you would have included in your report, correct?
Yes.
You do not intentionally omit, I should say, any important
First cop to be truthful that she didn't make that statement. I hit him, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him. Amazing.
details from your report, correct?
Correct.
You did not include that language, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him, in your report, correct?
Correct.
And the reason you didn't include it is that you never heard those words come out of Karen Reed's mouth, correct?
Correct.
Okay, now getting back to potential physical evidence, if you're at a potential crime scene, you want to find what you can, correct?
Correct.
You want to properly secure any physical evidence, right?
Correct.
In order to assist the investigation, you're prepared to conduct a thorough search for evidence that may shed light on what had happened, correct?
Correct.
And you did participate in a thorough search in this case, did you not?
The best we could in the elements that we were dealing with. Yes.
You had previously, and I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off
Nope.
if I did. You had previously testified, and I think I'm quoting you, the leaf blower worked great, correct?
Yes.
You would agree with me that with that leaf blower, your department was able to actually get down to the bare ground, correct?
Yes.
And you were directed to the precise area where John O'Keefe had been laying, correct?
Yes.
And so you knew the area that needed to be searched, correct?
Yes.
You certainly want to properly search around that area, correct?
Correct.
And after John O'Keefe was in the ambulance and transported to the hospital, that was the very area that you were eyeballing, correct?
Yes.
And you visually searched that area as best you could in the conditions, correct?
Yes.
You tried to be as careful as you could be.
Yes.
You did not want to miss anything.
Correct.
You took the job very seriously.
Yes.
In addition to scouring the area with your eyes, did you use your hands to search in the snow?
I don't remember doing that. I was recording it.
I'm sorry.
I don't remember it that way. I was recording the scene.
I see. Okay. Did you see other officers using their hands to search the scene?
I don't recall it that.
You recall officers using their feet to clear some areas?
Yes,
And you were the one that actually got your leaf blower, correct?
I did.
First time you ever used that in an investigation, fair to say?
Yes.
And your search was thorough enough, and when I say your search, I mean your department's search, in addition to your observations. It was thorough enough that you actually did recover small droplets of blood, correct?
We did.
Who was it that collected those blood droplets?
That was Lieutenant Gallagher and Sergeant Lang.
In addition to the blood droplets, you were looking for anything else that might be out of place there?
Sure.
Small items,
Of course.
large items?
Anything.
And as you were on scene, it was starting to get lighter as the morning progressed, correct?
Yes.
And again, you didn't clear the scene until almost 8 a.m.
Correct.
And you searched and were keeping alert to what was around you for the time that you were on scene, correct?
Yes.
During that 1 hour, I should say, and 40 minutes, you did not find 45 pieces of red and black and clear taillight pieces at 3450, correct?
No.
How many pieces of taillight did you find on or around that property?
That morning, none.
Did you find a men's hat?
None, but we found
black in
a
color?
No.
found a glass and some blood droppings, but no red light tail pieces, and no shoe and no hat.
Did you find a size 12 men's shoe, black in color?
No.
Now, you would agree that it's important to preserve and secure a crime scene?
Yes.
Why is that?
You don't want the crime scene to be contaminated.
And you also do not want, and you'd like to prevent a crime scene from also being manipulated. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
And what steps were taken, either by you or in your presence, to close off and secure the crime scene at 34 Fairview?
We had crime scene tape up while we were there, and then we also had Officer Mulaney on the road.
And when you say you had Officer Mulaney on the road, you mean blocking off
Yeah.
the road?
Correct.
Are you aware of something called a crime scene log?
No.
You recall being trained in the academy that when there is a crime scene that needs to be preserved, it is advisable to set up a log so that all personnel are required to sign in and sign out, again, to prevent contamination and to prevent manipulation. Do you not recall that training?
I don't recall that, no.
With regard to the fact that it was actively snowing at the time, did you consider putting a tent around the area to prevent and minimize the environmental intrusions like the snow?
It would have been useless.
Did you utilize any heaters to assist in melting the snow in that area?
No.
And before you cleared the scene, or I should say when you cleared the scene, did you post an officer to guard the scene so that nobody could get in or out?
No.
How long was the road closed off for?
While we were there, so those 2 hours.
All right. And then after the 2 hours, there was nobody guarding the scene. Would you agree?
Yes, correct.
The road was not closed off.
No,
That crime scene was open to the public.
correct.
So with regard to, a crime scene log, a tent, heaters, keeping an officer there to make sure nobody got in or out of that crime scene, you would agree none of those protocols were followed, correct?
I don't believe there is a protocol for a tent in our policy.
Okay. So I guess leave the tent out of it. None
Okay.
of those other protocols were followed, correct?
Correct.
And certainly a tent was not put up either.
No.
Correct?
Correct.
Now, with regard to your police report, going back to that, your report clearly listed persons involved in the case, correct?
Correct.
And that police report is generated by computer software, correct? That's
Yeah.
particular to police reports?
Correct.
And that's one of the categories that you can fill in, correct?
Correct.
And would you agree with me that with regard to all of the persons involved listed in your police report, everybody's first name and last name was completely spelled out except for one? Would you agree with that?
I don't. I believe those names were entered by Detective Sergeant Lang.
Okay, but certainly the report has your name on it, correct?
Correct.
So you would review the report before
Sure.
submitting it in your name, correct?
Correct.
So regardless of who entered or didn't enter, my question remains, which is that with regard to the persons involved listed in that report, everybody's name, first and last, is spelled out except for one, correct?
Correct.
Whose name was not spelled out completely?
If you signed the report, you adopted what was said on there. And why are you leaving Brian Albert's name out of it?
I don't know.
May I approach?
Okay.
Page 2, counsel. And I just
Thank
have to look at it silently and then look up at me when you're done. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Having reviewed that report, does that refresh your memory as to whose name was not completely spelled out?
Correct.
Who was that?
Brian Albert.
Because we got to protect our own.
Did you omit Brian Albert's first name to mask the fact that he was involved?
No. No.
Do you know who Colin Albert is?
I know that he is Chris Albert's son.
And so therefore he'd be Brian Albert's nephew?
Yes.
Anywhere in your report, do you mention that Colin Albert was present at 34 Fairview
Nope.
the night of January 28th going
Nope.
into January 29th?
Nope.
No.
Now, would you agree with me that this report also lists home addresses for everyone in the persons involved section except for one person?
Can I see the sheet again, please? Thank you.
This is the same, if I may approach,
Yes.
this is the same sheet that I sent you last time.
Thank you.
Take your time with it, sir.
Whose house? Whose address? Whose address is it?
And Sergeant, do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
What am I talking about?
Brian Higgins.
Okay.
Oh!
So with regard to Brian Higgins, his home address was not listed on there,
Why?
correct?
Why
Correct.
not?
And what address was listed for Brian Higgins?
1492 Washington Street.
And what is
That's Canton PD.
significant about that address?
It's the town of Canton.
It's the Town of Canton Police Department, correct?
Correct.
Now, Brian Higgins was not an involved person because he was an investigator on the case, correct?
Correct.
He was not involved in this case in an official capacity, correct?
Correct.
You were, right?
Yes.
So listing the Canton Police Department as Sergeant Sean Good's address would be appropriate. Would you agree?
Yes.
Why was Brian Higgins' address listed as the Canton Police Department?
I don't know.
But that is something that you kept in your report, correct?
Correct.
But he didn't write it. Link did. He only signed it. Which means he adopted it.
Okay. Now, I also want to ask you something else about your police report. And I want to focus on whether it was altered after it was first submitted, okay? If I can,
Hold on. Do you have your report with you?
I do not.
Okay. Do you have a copy for him, Ms. Gianetti? Yes, sure. Go ahead. No, that's okay.
I've placed a document before you. Feel free to familiarize yourself with it, and please look up at me when you're done.
Good.
Does that appear to be your police report, sir?
Yes.
Now, and with the court's permission, I'd actually like the officer to have the report in front of him when I ask him these questions.
Okay, but nothing's going up on the screen, right?
Not yet.
Okay, so approach before it does.
I will, I promise.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm directing your attention to the first page.
Okay.
You will agree with me that this report is submitted with regard to incident number 22-87-OF,
Correct.
and this is call number 22-449, correct?
Correct.
The date and time reported is listed as January 29th of 2022 at 06:08, correct?
Correct.
Which would be in military time, 6:08 a.m.
Correct.
The report date and time is listed as January 29th of 2022.
Objection, Your Honor.
All right, so why don't we come to sidebar now? And I'm s-
Okay. Oh shit. They're going to sidebar over this stupid thing. Like, let them impeach him. What? This is such bullshit. Okay, I'm going to be in the chat, but I'll be here.
trying to do this at sidebar now. Okay, so the same 3 cautions. Please do not discuss this case with anyone. Don't do any independent research or investigation into this case. If you happen to see, hear, or read anything about this case, please disregard it and let us know. So we'll see you tomorrow morning. Tomorrow morning's a half day.
Sirs, if you would boldly close your notebooks, leaving them on the chair, and taking all your belongings, follow me, all rise.
Goodbye.
Be seated.
All right, so someone needs to get Sergeant Lank for you. Okay, so the voir dire, I thought that we would have finished this earlier and I'd be able to give you more time, but I suggested 10, 15 minutes. Mr. Jackson tells me that's fine for him and the Commonwealth as well. So what I'd like to do is 10 to 15, 10 minutes would be great from each of you, and then I'll hear argument because it means now I'm keeping the staff longer than necessary. So, all right.
Is he here?
He is. They were getting him.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm just going to write it down.
All right, please. Goes back to session. You may be seated.
Is the witness here?
Please watch your step to the stand, please. The clerk and raise your right hand.
Do you solemnly swear the evidence you give the court in the case now and here to the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you.
Mayor, Your Honor.
Please.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us late in the afternoon, Sergeant Lank. I'm going to direct your attention to your relationship with the Albert family and some of the members of the Albert family. Do you know who Tim Albert is?
Yes.
Do you know who Chris Albert is?
Yes.
Do you know who Brian Albert?
Interrupt. I just need your name.
I'm so sorry. Can you please state your name and spell your name for the record, please?
Michael Lank, L-A-N-K.
Michael, common spelling?
Yes,
I'll start over. Do you know who Tim Albert is?
I do.
And do you know who Chris Albert is?
I do.
And do you know who Brian Albert is?
I do.
How do you know Tim Albert?
I know Tim Albert to be one of the younger brothers of the Albert family
How long have you known Tim?
since childhood.
What about Chris Albert?
Yes, I know Chris
How long have you known Chris?
since childhood.
And how would you describe your relationship with Chris Albert?
Chris and I were pretty good friends growing up, right into our 20s. Still friendly when I see him.
Still socialize with him?
No,
When did you last socialize with Chris Albert?
I couldn't tell you the last time I personally socialized with him. I've seen him at events, but Chris and I don't make arrangements to go out together.
What about Brian Albert?
No.
How would you describe your relationship with him?
Civil,
Friendly?
exchange pleasantries when I see him. Hello.
But you're closer to Chris.
Yes.
Have you ever described yourself as being a longtime, quote unquote, drinking buddy with Chris?
No.
Would you describe yourself previously, in years past, as being a drinking buddy with Chris?
No.
Have you ever gone out for drinks with Chris?
Not in years.
Ever?
Yes.
So you socialized with him in circumstances in which y'all are drinking and imbibing?
It's been many years, but yes.
Your relationship with Chris certainly goes all the way back to 2002.
Again, we were friendlier back then, yes.
Right. Back in 2002 in August, while you were off duty, were you out either drinking with Chris or in some way at a restaurant or a bar with Chris?
No,
Were you close in proximity to Chris when he was out drinking and at a bar?
no.
Was he at a restaurant?
I don't know where he was.
Were you at a bar?
I was.
At some point, did you realize that Chris was getting into some sort of physical altercation with somebody else in a parking lot?
Yes.
Did you jump into a fist fight in order to protect Chris Albert?
Chris actually approached my vehicle and started to describe an altercation that had been in previously in the night.
When you say your vehicle, your personal vehicle?
Yes.
Okay, so you were off duty, is that right?
Yes.
You've been drinking?
Yes.
Nothing wrong with that, but just
Yes.
so happens that you've been drinking that afternoon.
Yes.
Tim Albert was with Chris, correct?
Not when I saw him, no.
Ultimately, when you realized that Chris Albert was in some sort of fracas, some sort of fight or altercation, you activated yourself as a police officer at the time.
He wasn't in a fracas when he approached my vehicle. He approached my vehicle and stated that he had been in an altercation earlier in the night with one of the Lapalato brothers, and that during that altercation, threats were made against him and his family, and he was seeking advice because he knew I was a police officer as to how he should go forward. And as I was telling him what to do, that's when a group of men started to walk down Washington Street towards Chris, and he said, "Oh no, here they come."
So that would be Mark Lapalato, correct?
Yes.
And his brother Alfred.
Yes. Alfredo.
Alfredo, sorry. You got out of your car and approached the other men.
Yes.
You also called for a Canton police backup.
I brought my attention to the restaurant owner and a bartender who had walked out into the street, and I yelled for them to call the Canton police.
Canton police did in fact arrive, correct?
They did.
Isn't it true that after you got involved and Canton police arrived, you then instructed some of your colleague police officers to handcuff Alfredo?
I can't recall.
Isn't it true that after Alfredo was handcuffed and for all intents and purposes physically incapacitated, you then approached Mark Lapalato?
No.
You got into a fight with Mark Lapalato?
Yes.
You punched him in the face?
At one point after he had struck me, yes.
So your story is he struck you first and then you punched him.
Yes.
His story, of course, is you punched him first.
I don't know what his story is.
Well, you were sued in federal court and he told you his story in that lawsuit, correct?
So I actually had a question. The criminal case was adjudicated. The civil case, I did sign a non-disclosure, so I'm not sure if I can speak on that.
I will never ask you what the nature of any settlement within that case was. Just the fact that you were sued in a public document, which a federal lawsuit is a public document. You were sued in federal court over this incident that I'm talking about, correct?
Yes.
Ultimately, it was settled. I'll never ask you what the terms of the settlement are.
It was settled, yes.
Ultimately, you said that the criminal case was adjudicated. We'll get to that in just a second. Did you testify at that?
Somebody from a fight and he got involved when he was on duty.
I want to sort of tailor this a little bit because we're on a little bit of a time crunch and I want to be sensitive to the court's time and your time. The allegation that Mark Lapalato made against you is that you punched him, took him to the ground, continued to beat him, and bit him to the point of drawing blood, correct?
I believe that was his allegation, yes.
Then indicated that once the police officers that were there pulled you off of him, you then turned and walked over to Alfredo while he was still incapacitated, meaning physically handcuffed, and spat in his face.
I believe that was his allegation, yes.
Ultimately,
You were
both men,
found guilty. So
after this altercation, were allowed to leave the location, correct?
I believe one fled and the other one was allowed to leave, yes.
Okay. You're telling me now that Mark Lapalato punched you first, a police officer, correct?
Yes.
And are you aware of any circumstance in which an individual would be able to punch a police officer on duty or off duty in the presence of other police officers and just be released? That wouldn't happen, would it?
I don't believe the other police officers were on scene when the fight initiated.
Did you tell them that you got punched?
I don't recall.
They certainly let Mark go, correct?
Mark fled.
Okay. And then-
Alfredo was released.
So the next day, Mark and Alfredo showed up at Canton PD to file a complaint against you and some of the other police officers that were involved, correct?
That's what I was told. I wasn't there.
You didn't file a report for assault, battery, or anything like that, correct?
I spoke with my sergeant that night and he said that I could do a report when I came back in on my next day of work.
My question is, on that night, did you file a report?
No.
The next day, did you file a report?
I don't recall if it was 1 or 2 days later.
It's actually 3 days later, wasn't it?
I'm not sure.
It was after he
Does it sound
complained.
like that's in the time frame, probably was about 3 days later?
I honestly couldn't tell you. It's 22 years ago. I'm not really sure.
But between the time this fight happened and
remember
you
everything.
filed a report, Mark Lopolito and his brother Alfredo came into Canton PD and asked to swear out a complaint against you and fellow officers, correct?
I believe so.
And they were told to go away on that day.
I couldn't speak to that.
By the time they came back to file the complaint, then police reports had been written, right?
I don't know.
Once those police reports were written, after they indicated that they wanted to file a complaint, ultimately charges were brought against them, correct?
Again, ultimately charges were brought. I don't know the exact timeline.
After charges had been brought, and both brothers ended up having to go to court and defend themselves, you ran into both brothers at a mobile gas station.
Yes.
You confronted both brothers, correct?
No.
You approached both brothers.
No.
Isn't it true that you walked up and said, "How you doing?" to the two guys? And one of them responded, "Not so good. You attacked me, and now I've got to go to court."
No,
That conversation?
I believe they initiated the conversation with me.
Did you say, "How are you doing?"
Something to that nature.
And did they respond something to the effect of, "I'm not doing so good because you attacked me, and now I've got to defend myself in court"?
I don't recall exactly what they said in response.
And then, based on that interaction, you arrested them for witness intimidation, correct?
Well, there was further interaction. It wasn't just the response to "How are you doing?" They made threats and they were ultimately arrested. Yes.
So your claim now is that they made threats against you, a sitting police officer at the time, a working police officer.
Yes.
Okay. And you reported that threat to the DA's office.
Yes.
And charges were brought against them. I'm sorry. A report was brought against them for that witnessing.
So are these the same kind of witness intimidation charges that you put on a blogger? Because, he was talking bad about, your little witnesses that you're trying to defend. Imagine that. They get attacked and they get fucking charged. Wow. You're dirty. You're a dirty son of a bitch. And this ain't the first time you covered for one of the Albert brothers. Now you're covering for Brian? Sickening.
Intimidation, correct?
Oh, and you covered for Michael Farwell, the one that's responsible or accused. Because he hasn't been found guilty. He's accused of taking the life of a 22-year-old pregnant woman and groping her for almost 10 years. Grooming her for 10 years. Because she was in the junior police academy. Plus 2 other officers were grooming her. And he was married. And the day that his wife gave birth to their child, he went and took her life. And you guys claimed it was an unaliving of herself.
Ultimately, with regard to the assault charges for which they were arrested and tried, they were found not guilty in a public adjudication, criminal case, correct?
Correct.
And the DA's office threw out the witness intimidation charges because they were meritless. Isn't that right?
The charges were thrown out.
And all of this,
like they should be thrown out for Karen
history
Reed.
that we've just talked about, came on the heels of you assisting Chris and Tim Albert in a fight they said they had been in earlier in the evening. Is that right?
No.
You just told us that the reason you got involved in this melee, this fight to begin with, was because Chris Albert approached you and said, "I was in a fight with some guys earlier tonight, and here they come."
Yes, and you just said that he was with Tim Albert. I never saw Tim Albert that night.
My mistake. Let's just leave it at
He was with his fiance.
Okay. So all of this situation emanated from you coming to the aid of Chris Albert, your friend, longtime childhood friend, correct?
It had nothing to do with it being Chris Albert.
Bullshit.
Isn't it true that it had everything to do with it being Chris Albert?
No.
So just a regular random guy off the street, you would have conducted yourself the exact same way.
Nope.
Absolutely.
No. I doubt that.
Isn't it true that what you actually did, Sergeant Lang, in that particular circumstance, was you came to the aid of a friend and you used your position as a police officer to further that assistance and that protection?
No.
Yes, you did.
That's all I have, Your Honor.
Okay. Mr. Lally?
Thank you. Whatever happened between Christopher Albert and these brothers in that particular evening, you weren't present for that?
No.
And your testimony that Tim Albert wasn't present at any point in time when you were there, correct?
No.
Now, with regard to Tim Albert, What, if any, other involvement have
Look
you
at the
had with him as
Commonwealth
far
trying to
as,
save him.
through your official duties as a police officer?
I was involved in an investigation where we had to take out charges against Tim Albert.
So you've been involved in an investigation where charges were actually taken out against a member of the Albert family, correct?
Correct.
Do you recall roundabout when that was?
I believe it was 2012.
Do you recall who, if anyone, from your department was
I was
working with
going
you
to
on that
take that
investigation?
sick or
It would have been Officer Good at the time.
And that's now Sergeant Sean Good, is that correct?
That's correct.
tomorrow.
Same Sean Good involved in this case, correct?
Correct.
Now, with regard to the federal suit that was brought, that was settled, correct?
That's correct.
There was no disposition on it, no finding of liability or anything of the like.
Correct.
Now, with respect to Brian, how would you describe your relationship with him?
Again, civil.
Charges.
The two of you friends?
Charges.
Could you repeat that, please?
Are the two of you friends?
No.
You socialize with Brian Albert, have you?
Patriots.
I've been at events where Brian is at, and we will say hello.
Brian
But
is
that's
that.
pretty much the extent of it.
Have you ever socialized with Brian Albert, just the two of you?
No.
You ever been to his house or inside his house?
No.
Now, with regard to, other than that day of January 29, 2022, correct?
Correct.
You and Brian Albert, do you get along?
Say that again.
I said, he and Brian Albert, do they get along?
We have had some disagreements, I'd say, in the past, but we're civil. We get along enough to say hello.
Did he hit you?
Anything to do with your response, your interviews, or anything to do with January 29, 2022, have anything to do with the Albert family or Brian Albert or
Let's
Christopher
save
Albert?
him.
Or
Let's save
anything
him.
to
Hurry
do
up
with the
and
Albert
save
whatsoever?
him.
No.
That didn't change what you were doing, how you were doing it, or how you conducted yourself in this investigation. Is that
Charges.
correct?
That's correct.
Nothing further.
Okay.
I have one slight area to cover with the court's permission.
Okay.
Concerning Tim Albert, and this issue, or the investigation where charges were brought against Tim Albert, that was a circumstance in which Tim Albert, in broad daylight, slammed into a parked car belonging to a woman and then fled the scene, correct?
No.
Didn't
Oh,
you
another
follow a
hit and
trail of
runner, just like his brother Chris.
transmission
that
fluid
killed a
or
person
something to find where he had gone?
in '94.
I did.
And he fled directly to 34 Fairview, correct?
Correct.
He didn't live there. He went to his brother's house. Brian,
Okay, this is another intricate part of the whole family ordeal. So Chris Albert, Tim Albert are both they both love to do hit and runs, except for one hurt the lady and the other one unalived the dude. Then they both ran, and one's a cop and one's a select boardman. Okay, got it. And then their oldest brother is a Boston cop. Okay, cool.
No, that's not correct.
he lived there at the time?
Yes.
Okay, so you follow the trail of whatever it is, fluid trail, all the way to where Tim Albert had fled to, and you basically had no choice. He had just slammed into the back of a car and then fled the scene. Isn't that right?
I concluded my investigation by locating the vehicle that had heavy damage.
The vehicle that he hit.
His vehicle.
His vehicle had heavy damage, but so did the vehicle that he hit, correct?
So you had said a minute ago that he hit a parked car. That's incorrect.
Oh, he hit a moving car.
It was a vehicle that was, I believe it was stopped at a light. It wasn't a parked car.
And
It
he
was
ran.
a vehicle that was stopped.
Okay.
It doesn't matter. He
Irrespective
ran.
of whether the engine was running or parked or not, he hit a car
Yes.
with a woman in it, fled the scene, then you find him trying to hide out at 34 Fairview, correct?
He had parked the car at 34 Fairview.
And you didn't have much choice. I mean, there you have it.
Other
The
brother,
evidence is right in front of you. You
like,
can't really cover that one up, right?
I would say I did my job.
So this is voir dire.
Went to 20 years.
Could you answer the question, please?
I would say I did my job.
Okay. Did you engage in any kind of a DUI investigation?
We spoke with him.
Did you give him FSTs?
I don't recall if I did. I know I didn't. I don't recall if Officer Good did.
Did you give
Oh,
him,
they're both drunk driving
a
incidents.
breathalyzer?
Hold on, they're both drunk driving incidents, and I forgot about this.
I did not.
Did you ask him for a blood test?
I did not.
So no DUI investigation was really
Cause
anything, correct?
damages.
Again, I can't recall what Officer Good did,
What a great
but I
family.
was there.
But you didn't do it. You didn't do what I
They're
just
all
suggested,
corrupt.
full-blown DUI investigation, even though he hit another car and then fled the scene.
And you know what? This other, the older brother, the other cop, he was on Boston's Finest or some shit, that one show with that followed around Boston cops. He was on that show. This shit is crazy.
We spoke with him, and he gave an explanation.
And that explanation coming from Tim Albert was, I'm really sorry, I panicked, right?
It was something to that nature.
And he turned around, well, I'll just cut to the chase. Y'all ended up charging him with a misdemeanor, correct?
Wow.
I believe so.
And he was given diversion,
I don't know.
and his record was wiped clean.
I don't know.
That's all I know.
All right. Thank you, Sergeant. You can step down, sir. I'll hear you, Mr. Jackson.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'll be very brief. I spoke about the Aguiar case a couple of days ago, and I think it's still attendant to our conversation today or discussion today. That case stands for the proposition that it doesn't matter if the evidence reveals something other than something that's otherwise inadmissible, as long as the material elaborates on or establishes that there could be some sort of bias or prejudice. There doesn't have to be a bias or prejudice. I don't have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt or to clear and convincing evidence that there's a bias or prejudice. But if the evidence suggests that there could be bias or prejudice, that is proper fodder for the jury to consider, and that's what we're asking. In this case, Sergeant Lank's willingness to activate himself as an officer, get involved with Chris Albert, although it was in 2002, and I know that that's something that Mr. Lowley's going to say, and he's going to harp on, this was so long ago, that actually cuts against the Commonwealth's case. That shows how long these folks have been involved with each other and how deep their relationships run. For him to sort of deputize himself in that situation,
Exactly.
in order to help out his longtime friend, whom he socializes with, drinks with, grew up with, establishes a bias and a prejudice, in this case against Miss Reed, and in favor of the Alberts. And it's not like he had a tangential part to play in this, a role to play in this investigation. He was the very first officer to walk in that front door. He absolutely knew what he was going to find when he walked in the front door, which was the homeowners and possibly other witnesses. He engaged in a interview or a series of interviews that were not recorded. I have no idea what was said. The jurors are never going to find out exactly what was said other than to take his word for it. The jurors have to be able to weigh and balance his credibility against an officer that, for instance, even like Sergeant Good, for instance, who seems to come across far more unbiased, just sort of a straight shooter. Sergeant Lank is not that person. He never should have walked in that front door. He should have said to his supervisors, I have a relationship with the Albert family. I've known these folks for too long. I grew up with his brother or brothers. I've known them my whole life. I'm probably not the right person to make the decisions about this investigation. And unless and until the jurors know that and can weigh and balance it, they can toss it out if they want to, or they can adopt it if they want to. So if they need to be able to hear the evidence.
So I have a question for you. So the part about the complaint at the station
yes,
and being turned away, who are you going to get that in from other than the Lapalito brothers, which puts us a little far afield? So he didn't adopt it or said, I don't know, or that's what I've heard.
So the Lapalito brothers, I think.
I know, but that's so far removed now.
I disagree. I think they're the ones that are closest to the situation. So we would ask who's better to tell the jurors that they walked in. I can get the police report. I can tell the court when it's dated. It's dated September 2nd or September 3rd, and the Lapalitos walked in on August 31st to make the complaint.
No, I understand because you've outlined it, or Ms. Little outlined it, which is very helpful. I don't disagree that some of this is admissible. I just have to figure out how you intend to get it in, because I have to be concerned about if it's a mini trial within a trial, and we're trying to avoid that. If he were to testify as he did, that's what I understand, and the Commonwealth didn't object to that. That seems admissible to me.
I would probably seek to do it with the court's permission through two pieces of evidence. One would be Mark or Alfredo, and I don't think I would use both of them.
You would not.
I would not. Okay, fair enough. I would seek to ask Mark to join us. He would testify to the altercation. He would testify to the complaint, and then I would seek to either get a stipulation to the date of the police reports. I don't even need the police reports in. If I can't get a stipulation, then I probably would just ask the court to be able to establish that the police report is a business record.
So I would like to see those police reports tonight before I leave. Okay.
If I have them. You'd have to get them. Right. I will do my best to get them to the court. I can't get them to the court tonight. We don't have them.
Okay.
So I'll start working on that immediately.
All right. Anything else?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, Mr. Lally.
Okay.
I would submit the defendant hasn't met his burden. There is no actual relevancy to any of this, and it is essentially a trial within a trial at this point. Bringing in other civilian witnesses to talk about an incident which happened 22 years ago.
So let's forget about bringing in the civilian witnesses. How about what we heard as to what Sergeant Lank would testify to?
As to what Sergeant Lank would testify to is a single incident in which he did not witness anything to do with the Albert brothers. Christopher Albert was never at 34 Fairview Road on January 28th or until much, much later in the day of January 29th, and certainly not at the same time that Sergeant Lank was. I think counsel far overestimates what Sergeant Lank's involvement in this particular investigation was. He shows up on scene, he assists with the other officers, Lieutenant Gallagher and Sergeant Good, that you've already heard from. And with respect to, he takes a couple of initial statements, all those witnesses then subsequently talked to troopers from the state police, testified grand jury, multiple grand juries, and will all be testifying as witnesses in this case. So any purported bias from an incident from 22 years ago involving a brother who wasn't even present at the home on the night in question does nothing but confuse the jury as to what the issues are, and creating this sort of bias out of thin cloth that has no basis whatsoever in the facts of this case.
Okay, so I disagree with you. I don't know yet. I want to see those police reports. I don't know yet what I'm going to allow in, but I disagree that it has nothing to do. If it weren't involving the Alberts, then under the grand jury case, the decision by Justice Gantz, Chief Justice Gantz at the time, it wouldn't come in, but it does. So it comes in for different purposes, so different reasons. So I'd like those reports tonight, or certainly by tomorrow morning before we come out.
We'll do our best.
Okay. All right. So we'll figure this out tomorrow morning. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, please.
I think we'll do like maybe an hour of day 2 or day 6. Okay. Wait, let me make sure.
Yay. All persons having business before the Honorable Beverly Canoni, Justice of the Norfolk Superior Court, in and for the County of Norfolk. Draw near, give your attendance, you shall be heard. God save the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. This court is now open. You may be seated.
22117, the Commonwealth versus Karen Reed. Can I have counsel identify themselves for the record?
Adam Lally for the Commonwealth. Good morning, Your Honor.
Good morning, Mr. Lally.
Good morning, Your Honor. Laura McLaughlin for the Commonwealth.
Good morning, Ms. McLaughlin.
Your Honor, Alan Jackson for Ms. Reed.
Good morning, Mr. Jackson.
Good morning, Your Honor. Elizabeth Little, also on behalf of Ms.
Good
Reed.
morning, Ms. Little.
And good morning, Your Honor. David Unetti for Karen Reed.
Good morning, Mr. Yannetti. Good morning, Ms. Reed. Good morning, jurors. So I apologize for the delay this morning. What I'm going to start doing, we don't want to keep you folks waiting, and sometimes there's traffic or other reasons that we're delayed. Rather than recording at 8:20 in the morning, I'm pretty much to record at 8:30. Okay, we'd rather you have us waiting than we have you waiting. So I do have to ask you those 3 questions. Was everyone able to follow the instructions and refrain from discussing this case with anyone since we left yesterday? Yes. Everyone said yes or nodded affirmatively. Were you also able to follow the instructions and refrain from doing any independent research or investigation into this case? Yes. Everyone said yes or nodded affirmatively. Did anyone happen to see, hear, or read anything about this case since you left yesterday? No. Everyone said no. Okay, thank you very much. Could we have Sergeant Good, please? Thanks, Jim.
Sir, can you raise your right hand one more time? You solemnly swear the evidence you give the court during the case now here is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes.
Okay. Good morning. All right, we all set?
May I proceed, Your Honor?
Yes.
Good morning, Sergeant.
Good morning.
Sergeant, you are familiar with the key swipe system at the Canton Police Department?
Yes.
Could you explain to the jury how that works?
So police officers are issued looks like a credit card. I have it in my wallet. Anytime I enter or leave the police department, the exterior doors going out the back there's a key scan. You put it up to it, unlock the door to come in. When you leave, you don't have to go in, but if you need to go into the booking area, you have to scan yourself in and out. And to get out of the sally ports, you have to scan in and out.
Okay, and just trying to keep your voice up so that
Yes,
these
sorry.
last few jurors can hear you. How many officers on your department have those keys that can be swiped?
I would believe all of them.
Okay. And how many, or strike that. Do you know how this information is stored at the Canton Police Station?
I do not. I don't know the software, but I believe it's recorded anytime we would come and go.
Okay. And you say you believe that it's recorded at the time that the information is obtained. In other words, somebody key swipes in and that information is then stored, you believe, at the Canton Police Station?
I don't know the software, so I wouldn't be able to give you an educated respond to that.
And do you yourself, as a sergeant, have access to the key swipe data, or is that limited to certain officers at the department?
I don't believe I have access to that. I've never accessed
You've
it.
never accessed it. Okay. Your Honor, we do have a stipulation between the parties, if the court will accept it, to introduce the key swipe records from January 29th of 2022.
Okay.
I would offer that as the next exhibit.
Any objection, Mr. Lally?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Are they subject to redactions?
Yes, we have redacted them. The court can certainly take a look to make sure that.
Have you all agreed to the redactions?
May we approach Justice to that?
Yes.
Oh my God. Why is there no sound? Hello, sound, sir. Sound.
Before you now took the stand today, did you go over your report?
My police report?
Yes.
Yes.
Were you looking for anything specifically?
No.
How long did you take to review that report between yesterday and today?
I scanned over it.
A few minutes?
Sure. Yes.
Have you spoken to anybody about your report?
No.
Nobody from the Canton Police?
Can I wrap
No.
up?
You recall that I had asked you about the fact that one name had not been completely spelled out in terms of first name, right?
Yes.
And you had, I believe, indicated that Sergeant Lank was the one that altered that or added that to the report.
Not altered. So he was the one that got those names. So when he entered his report, I believe he would enter those.
Okay, and so he entered that into your report, correct?
Anybody writes a supplemental, if you have the authorization, can enter who you speak to add those names. I only spoke to Ms. Roberts, Ms. Reed, and Ms. McCabe that morning.
Okay, but the report has your name on it, correct?
Yes.
Did you speak to anybody from the prosecution, either Mr. Lally or Ms. McLaughlin or anybody else from that office about this issue?
No.
You would agree with me that it is important when you're writing a police report to be transparent, correct?
Yes.
You want to be clear, correct?
Yes.
You do not want to mislead the reader into believing something that is not true. Can I see P and Q for identification, please? Thank you, sir. May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm showing you first P for identification. You identified that yesterday, correct?
Yes.
We went over with the jury the 5 bits of information that are up at the top of the report, starting with the incident number, correct?
Yes.
You had indicated again, incident 22-87-OF,
Yes.
call 22-449,
Yes.
date and time reported January 29th of 22 at 6:08,
Yes.
and the report date and time was January 29th of 22 at 8:24 a.m., correct?
Yes.
Reporting officer, Sergeant Sean Good, correct?
Yes.
I'd like to show you now what has been marked Q for identification. And you can hang on to P if you like. With regard to those bits of information, oh, first of all, let me have you identify Q for identification. I'm sorry.
Yes, I'm reading Q.
Okay, what is Q for identification?
Exhibit Q.
Right. What is the actual document?
We call this a face sheet.
Okay. And with regard to P for identification, that's also a face sheet, correct?
Yes.
They appear to be nearly identical, correct?
Correct, except I'm looking at the top right corner. One says 1/30/2022, and the next would be 10/25/2022.
That is the print date of the report, correct?
Okay, I don't know.
So regardless of when those 2 face sheets had been printed, ignore that. With regard to the information about the incident number and the date of the report and the date of the incident and the reporting officer, those appear to be identical, correct?
Correct.
Now, with regard to P for identification, which is the first report that you were shown, and you were shown that yesterday, and now you have it in front of you, there is a photo on the right side of that report, is there not?
There is.
Do you know what that photo is of?
It looks like the scene probably a couple days later when the snow had melted.
Okay. Does it look like a berm that was actually
Exposed?
uncovered by the officers on scene the very first day?
Yes. Are we looking at Q?
No, at
At P? Yes. P? Yes. It looks like the berm. Correct.
And then with regard to Q for identification, which again is the face sheet with the identical information, is there a different photo?
Yes.
What does that photo appear to depict, if you know?
It looks like the same area that Mr. O'Keefe possibly was found, I believe.
Those two documents, P for identification and Q for identification, those are actually your report, correct?
Correct. But can I explain?
Mr. Lally will, I'm sure, let you explain. At this point, I'm going to be asking the questions if you don't mind. Your Honor, I would offer into evidence as full exhibits both P and Q for identification. Just the face sheet.
Is there an objection?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, the objection sustained.
May we approach?
Okay. Can I see those, please?
Oh my God.
Questions you can ask while you wait for this.
I'm just getting the exhibit that I need, Your Honor. I appreciate it. All right, while I'm waiting for that, may I approach?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, I've placed a photo before you, Sergeant Griggs. Do you recognize what that depicts?
Yes.
What does it depict?
I believe that's a photo of a piece of a taillight.
Okay. And when you say a photo of a piece of a taillight, you're obviously referring to a piece of a taillight allegedly found at 34 Fairview in Canton?
Yes.
Now, that photo is the photo that is included in Exhibit Q for identification that you previously saw, right? That's the second photo, is it not?
On the second face sheet that you gave me?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. And I'm showing you, if I may approach again,
Yes.
what has already been marked Exhibit 20A. Do you recognize that?
Yes.
What do you recognize that to be?
That's the berm from that morning.
Okay. And Exhibit 20A is the photo that was in the first version of your report, which was P for identification, correct?
Yes.
If I can take those back from you, sir. Just do it like that. Okay, where's the envelope? Right here. Can you set that up? Published the two photos, I'm sorry. With regard to the first photo that you identified, which was the piece of taillight that allegedly was found at 34 Fairview, that was a fair and accurate representation of that photo, correct?
Yes.
All right. May I offer that, Your Honor?
Okay, there's no objection, Mr. Lally?
No, Your Honor.
Okay.
Exhibit 42.
22.
Okay, and I'm sorry, the exhibit number was?
42.
42, thank you. May I publish 20A and 42 separately for the jury, Your Honor?
Okay.
Okay. 20A is, you've testified, the photo of the berm that was included in the first version of your police report, which was P for identification, correct?
Yes.
All right. Let's put up 42, please. No. I'm sorry. Where is 42?
Right here.
I don't have it.
Oh, you have it?
Yeah.
No wonder. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Sure.
Okay. The exhibit sticker's upside down, but oh, there we go. That is the photo of the piece of taillight allegedly found at 34 Fairview that you have identified as Exhibit 42, correct?
Yes.
All right. Now, having seen those photos, One was included in P for identification, one was included in Q for identification, correct?
Yes.
Which you previously identified as your reports. Or report, I should say.
Yes.
Your Honor, I would offer the top portion of P and Q for identification as a full exhibit.
Okay, and there's an objection from the Commonwealth?
Hey,
Yes.
I thought they didn't
It will
find
come
any
in,
satellite pieces. Now he's saying that they did find it. And why were they found right next to the burn? That burn, or whatever, right there. Like that's crazy. That is crazy. I didn't remember seeing that.
When the jury actually gets it,
Let me
we'll have it
watch
on the
that.
same 9x12 paper that everything else is.
Perfect. A is, you've testified, the photo of the berm that was included in the first version of your police report, which was P for identification, correct?
Yes.
All right. Let's put up 42, please. No. I'm sorry. Where is 42?
Right here.
I don't have it.
Oh, you have it?
Yeah.
No wonder. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay. The exhibit sticker's upside down, but oh, there we go. That is the photo of the piece of taillight allegedly found at 34 Fairview that you have identified as exhibit 42, correct?
Yes.
All right. Now, having seen those photos, one was included in P for identification, one was included in Q for identification, correct?
Yes.
Which you previously identified as your reports. Or
Whoa!
report, I should say.
Yes.
Your Honor, I would offer the top portion.
But you said
of
you
P
didn't find
and Q
any.
for identification as a full exhibit.
Wow.
Okay,
He just
and there's an objection from the
impeached him.
Commonwealth?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
That was a
It will
good
come in,
impeachment. That was a good impeachment, Yannetti.
when the
That
jury
was a
actually gets
good
it, we'll have it on the
impeachment.
same 9x12 paper that everything else is.
Perfect.
And all exhibits go through Madam Court Reporter.
Oh, of course.
He becomes 43.
So, jurors, I'm going to send you out for 5 minutes, okay?
Jury, close your notebooks, leave them on your seats. Gather all your
That was
belongings, follow me,
huge.
all rise, jury out.
That was so huge. That was fucking huge. That was fucking huge.
May I see those, Madam Court Reporter, please?
That was huge.
All right. So I thought you were going to cut them. Apparently, you probably don't have scissors. Let's get these so that they're acceptable to go to the jury. I mean, this just came in with the whole report on it.
I'm sorry?
This just came into evidence with the whole report, and that's not what you agreed to at sidebar.
Right. I mean, I guess we didn't have scissors, but what I was going to do, because it's folded, all I was going to show the jury was the part that got in.
But these are now in evidence.
Understand.
Okay, and that can't happen. So
Understand.
fix them. Do we have scissors, Mr. Clerk? Thank you.
Okay.
So why don't you fix them, run them through a copy machine? All right, we'll take a 5-minute recess. And actually, this is probably a good time for me to say, you know, and it's not just the defense, it's not just the prosecution, but we're taking an awful lot of these jurors' times. We're taking days and weeks. Let's not squander it by, you know, repetitive evidence or taking time like this that we shouldn't need to take. Okay, let's move this case along. All right.
Talk to
All right,
Lally
I'll be out
about
in
if
5
it was
All right,
snowing or
please.
not. And I don't think it's repetitive evidence. Okay, let me go right past this bullshit.
Your Honor, can I have P and Q marked as the next exhibits in the trial?
Okay. Thank you.
And with the court's permission, I'd like to display these one above the other.
Okay.
Okay. Sergeant Good, you have previously testified about the details in these reports. You would agree that each of these
Sean Good.
reflects your report. It says reporting officer Sergeant Sean Good, correct?
Yes.
Each of these is page 1 of your report, correct?
Yes.
You've previously testified that you call that the face sheet of the report, correct?
Yes.
Each of these has correct?
Yes.
The identical report date and time, correct?
Yes.
And of course, the identical officer.
Yes.
Other than the print date of the face sheet of your report, one appears to be in January, one appears to be in October. The major change is the photo that's included on the face sheet, correct?
Yes. Can I explain why?
So that second photo with the piece of taillight that is included on the first page of your report, that photo is not from January 29th of 2022, correct?
In the back.
Correct.
You never took a photo of a piece of taillight on January 29th of 2022, correct?
Correct.
You never saw
What about food?
a piece of taillight at 34 Fairview on January 29th of 2022, correct?
Correct.
Did you personally switch the photo
Did
on
you
the
already
face
get
sheet
him food?
of your police report?
No.
Do you know who did?
So whoever updated the report, their supplemental, you add photos.
But in answer to my question, do you know the specific person from your department who altered the photo on the face sheet of your report?
I didn't take the supplemental report, so I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know who took the photo.
But given that this is your report, you're the reporting officer, you are responsible for the content of that report, are you not?
For my report, yes, not other officers' supplementals to an investigation.
All right, but this is your report. This is the face sheet.
You adopted
for
it.
The reporting officer,
That's
Sergeant
dirty.
Sean Good, is it not?
You said that you
Yes,
didn't.
on the face sheet.
All right. Now, would you agree with me that someone reading this report and seeing that the date and time of the report is listed as January 29th of 2022 at 8:24 a.m., that's when you wrote it, correct?
That's when I logged in, yes.
Dirty son of a-
Somebody reading that and seeing a photo of a piece of taillight might believe that that photo is from the same date that you're writing the report, correct?
Exactly.
Sustained.
Do you think it's misleading to include a photo on
Why
the
won't
face
you
sheet
let
of
it
the
in?
report when the report is dated January 29th, 2022, and the photo is not from that day, it's from sometime later?
Objection.
Sustained.
Why won't you let that get in?
Is there anything on what is now marked Exhibit 44 on that face sheet that indicates the date and time that that photo on Exhibit 44 was taken?
No.
Is there anything on Exhibit 44, that face sheet of your report, that indicates that it applies to some supplemental report that was later filed?
No.
That's misleading.
I may have a moment.
Yes.
Nothing further, thank you.
All right, please take the exhibit down. And we need that exhibit, Mr. Yannetti.
Oh, yes, of course. We have two others as well.
Okay, the exhibits are to remain up here with the clerk.
With the clerk?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, go right ahead, Mr. Lally.
Thank you. So Sergeant Good, turning back to some questions you were asked yesterday in regard to Christopher Albert and whether or not he was a town selectman, is that correct?
Yes.
And he is currently, is that correct?
Yes.
And was he on January 29th of 2022?
No.
So he was
That don't
elected
matter.
to the Board of Selectmen
He's
subsequent
still-
to this date
he's
of,
still
that
a-
you've been talking about,
whatever.
January 29th, 2022, correct?
Yes.
Now, the location where you were directed to where Mr. O'Keefe had been located just after 6 a.m., where was that in relation to the property line between 34 Fairview Road and the home next door?
If I had to guess, probably 10, 12 feet to the property line.
Now, you were asked some questions about having been to that residence at 34 Fairview Road prior. And you indicated that you had been there years ago with Sergeant Lang. Is that correct?
Yes.
And what was that in regard to, sir?
It was a hit and run investigation.
And who, if anyone, so why were you at that residence at 34 Fairview Road?
So there was a call for a motor vehicle crash at the corner of Dedham and Washington Street, and the suspect vehicle had fled the scene. Officer Lank was my partner that night. He followed the oil spill of the vehicle down Dedham Street, up Cedar Crest, all the way down to the intersection of Cedar Crest to Fairview, and the oil spill actually drove into 34 Fairview, where we found the vehicle.
And who, if anyone, did you, through your investigation, who, if anyone, did you associate with operating that?
That'd be Tim Albert.
And was Mr. Timothy Albert, was he charged in reference to that incident?
Yes, he was.
And do you know approximately when that was?
It was in 2009. I don't know the exact date, but I know the year.
And his other and Chris Albert did it in 2020?
Now, as
Or
far as
2000?
your report,
Or
you asked a
1998
number
or some shit?
questions about that. I'm sorry, before I get to that, you had testified earlier that when you were leaving the scene, there was an amount of snow that had compiled on your windshield, correct?
Yes.
And after leaving the scene, what if anything happened with the snowfall sort of throughout the course of the day?
Our windshield was completely covered. We had to take time to clear off our windshields. It had snowed considerably.
And then following that throughout sort of the course of the rest of the day in the afternoon, what if anything did you observe about the snowfall at that point?
It continually got worse.
Now, as far as your report is concerned, what you were shown and what you've seen, has there been any change as far as your narrative in reference to who you talked to, what they said, anything of that effect?
No.
You've been asked a bunch of questions about what you called a face sheet. Can you explain to the jury sort of what a face sheet is and sort of how that comes into being?
Easiest way, it's the top sheet of the report. It's not the actual meat of the report. It just gives you the date and time. Usually, if you can fit it on the front of the sheet, it'd be the first party would be involved. If there was a suspect, defendant, and that's it. It would be their name, date of birth, social security number, all of their personal information.
So, as far as you were saying, sort of the meat of the report, it has no real relation to that, correct?
Correct.
Now, you were handed two exhibits or two parts of the report, and you were told to ignore the date that they were printed, correct?
Correct.
And so, what, if any, significance would the date that they were printed have in relation to what's on a face sheet?
So, in this case, there was supplemental reports done after the 29th. So those reports were added to my initial report. You can add a supplemental narrative. So if that includes meeting new people, talking to other people, or taking photos of anything you found, you would add that to our report, and it would be documented in the supplemental.
You haven't looked at the damn jury all the time,
So
man.
why a
You
photo
might
might
tell
be different
when
on
you
one
wanna
face sheet when
lie,
it's printed versus a subsequent date.
and try
when
to
the
make
face sheet
it
is
seem
printed. Can you explain
sincere,
to the jury
right?
at this time sort of why did that happen?
So when that face sheet was printed, if photo number one was the top photo, and now there was a new photo added, that could be now the top photo on that face sheet when it was printed.
And how would that be something that someone would physically go in and do, or is that something that sort of within the system automatically occurs?
I don't know how the system numbers the photos. So
Lie.
we added our photos on
Right.
January 29th, and then any photos subsequent to that
Right.
were added. I don't know how the software would put them 1 through 20 or how many there were.
Lies. Yeah, it was there to be misleading.
Okay.
If I might,
Very briefly.
you had just talked about how Tim Albert was charged as a result of the investigation that you did years ago, correct?
Yes.
The evidence in that case, you would agree with me, was strong against Tim Albert for that crime, was it not?
To leave the scene, yes.
Sure. Sergeant Blank actually was able to follow the trail of fluid from the accident scene right to 34 Fairview, correct?
Yes.
And Tim Albert admitted that he got nervous and left the scene, correct?
Correct.
All right. Now, despite the fact that he was charged, are you aware that the case was just flat out dismissed upon restitution?
Objection, move to strike, Your Honor.
The objection sustained.
Nothing further.
Jurors, you're to disregard that.
Jurors don't just.
All right, you're all set, sir.
Thank you, Your Honor.
This is so bad.
Who is your next witness, Mr. Lally?
Yes, Your Honor. Commonwealth call Sergeant Michael Lang to the stand.
All right, so
Oh, shit. No.
that. All right, you're all set, sir.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Who is your next witness, Mr. Lally?
Yes, Your Honor. Commonwealth call Sergeant Michael Lang to the stand.
All right, so not yet. I'll see counsel at sidebar, please.
Jesus, criminy. Ha! Yannetti was there in the quickness. Yeah, you see all this, Paul? I mean, you know, you were in a drunk driving accident and left the scene too, Paul. And she helped you. She helped you get an attorney and everything, Paul. And you're not seeing this crap job of a investigation? This is crazy. They're gonna send the jury out, and then they're gonna talk about her ruling. These sidebars are so fucking long. Dumb. Absolutely dumb that they can't. That she can't, you know, do rulings before her trial and shit. She says, oh, we're wasting their time. Well, you're wasting their time by all these damn sidebars and shit. And there he is, like hunting them down.
It's important to the defendant's case. So tell me exactly, based on the voir dire yesterday, exactly what you hope to get into.
Thank you, Your Honor. With regard to the voir dire yesterday, my intention is to closely mirror my questioning of Sergeant Lank with my questioning of him on voir dire. In other words, the fact of the fight, the fact of Chris Albert's involvement in the fight, the fact of his getting involved in the fight, called officers to assist him, the specifics of the allegations of the local Lido brothers as to his conduct, what they alleged he did, the part that he took in the fight, their subsequent release from the scene, going back into the Canton Police Department to file or lodge a complaint, the fact that they were turned away for the complaint, there were subsequent police reports filed. And the
So I don't have those, right? You didn't send them to us.
We got those. We got those
All
last
right,
night.
it's okay. It's too late for the police reports, but go ahead and finish what you've got.
Right. Just so the court knows, as the court requested, we provided those to the judicial assistant last night.
Who's the judicial assistant?
Mr.
Is this Lololitos?
Locally. Yeah.
Go ahead after the police report.
So basically, Your Honor, and I don't have any interest in introducing the police reports. I just need the timing. In other words, there was the fight, the complaint, the police reports were filed after the complaint, and then they were charged after the police reports. And then the subsequent resolution of the matter. The fact
So what do you mean by subsequent resolution?
they were adjudicated not guilty, and ultimately the subsequent witness intimidation request by Sergeant Lank was thrown out by the DA. With regard to what was brought up by Mr. Lally yesterday, I intend to include and elicit in my questioning of Sergeant Lank the issue concerning Tim Albert and the resolution of that issue.
Well, Mr. Yannetti just did that.
Well, he didn't because the court struck it.
Yeah. It should not have been done.
Well, Your Honor,
go ahead.
Respectfully, the Commonwealth left the jurors with a misimpression intentionally.
So
his last question was, and he was charged. That's true. He was charged. And then those charges were dismissed subsequent thereto.
Right, but this was specific. We should have, and it wasn't objected to, right? So Mr. Lally's question wasn't objected to. All right, so is that the end of what you intend to get into?
Yes.
All right, Mr. Lally, you're objecting to all of this?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Do you want to be heard specifically on anything?
No, disregard it.
All right. So what I'm going to allow you to get in is the relationship of Sergeant Lank with the Alberts. But keep in mind, Mr. Jackson, the Alberts are not all one entity. So you must do it individually. And simply because the witness had a relationship
Yeah,
with
but
Chris
if he's
Albert
close with
doesn't
her friend-
mean that it has any bearing on favoritism or bias to
Oh,
Brian
yes, it
Albert
does.
or to Tim Albert.
Conflict
So
of
you have to
interest
do them
all the way
individually.
through.
I'll give you some leeway on the
It's
incident
conflict
itself,
of interest,
but keep in mind the
lady.
particulars of the fight is
Lady, it's conflict of interest. See, I mean, I love when you do, you know, the real like semi fair, but you do it half-assedly.
isn't really what matters here. It's the fact of the fight and the intervening of Sergeant Lank.
Also, the hit and runs, because they like to do that. Same with Chris Albert. He did a hit and run and killed the dude, and all that great stuff, And he had to. I don't know, like I don't know what happened. I don't know if his case was thrown out or whatever, but yeah.
On behalf of Chris Albert, as it's relevant to bias or favoritism. So if there are objections that you get beyond, you may be stopped. You can get when and where it happened, that it happened outside a bar where the witness had been drinking. He did not acknowledge your drinking buddy's comment, so you're not to specifically say that, where you just said you're going to outline what you did yesterday. And that this occurred in
He said
Canton,
it was a while ago.
the role, if any, he had in handcuffing or having.
Hold on. He did say he drank with him, but it had been a while ago, lady. You don't pay attention? Do you not pay attention? I don't think you pay attention.
The Lapalitos put in custody, and the fact that Mark Lapalito went to the Canton Police Department to file a report. What you cannot get into is the mobile gas station incident, because I didn't hear anything yesterday that the conduct of Sergeant Lank had anything to do with the Alberts. I'm not convinced that it wasn't merely self-interest on his part. So that's out. That was 22 years ago. Nothing. So you're not getting into the federal investigation that he was sued. I'm not letting you get into the not guilty because it's speculative. Who knows why he was found not guilty, why they were found not guilty. You cannot get into that. There are all kinds of reasons people can be found not guilty. Whether I allow more depends on the testimony, the direct and the cross. So you are to go no further than that without leave of court. So the Commonwealth can then get into the animosity between the witness, Sergeant Lank, and Brian Albert because of the arrest of Tim Albert. But if Mr. Lally, if you open the door to something further, I need to be seen at sidebar before anybody can come get into that. So Mr. Jackson, you did this in 10 minutes yesterday. I don't expect you to take 2 hours to do this, okay? And just as an aside again, let's not waste the jury's time with repetitive testimony.
I don't intend to, Your Honor. I think I understand the court's, the parameters. The one thing I didn't hear the court say, but I think it was implied, but I want to make sure I'm clear. I can get into the fact that there was a complaint sought, and then there were subsequent police reports filed.
Not the police. I didn't hear anything yesterday about the police reports. I haven't seen them. So that the complaint was sought, and that subsequent to that, they were summoned and had to go to court.
What you asked.
And the dates of the police reports that were filed?
You can say the dates without saying the police reports. So they went into the station to file a complaint. They were told they couldn't file a complaint on those 2 days, right?
Correct.
And then the witness did testify that he filed a report, but it was that he had told his sergeant the night before of this incident, and the sergeant said, you don't have to file a report until you come back or something like that.
So I'll just ask, were the reports dated after the initial complaint was requested?
Okay. Okay. All right. I'll give you all a 5-minute break, and then we have to get going.
All rise for the vote, please.
All righty then. Alrighty then. So I guess I'll be back tomorrow with the rest of. I was trying to big screen myself. With the rest of tomorrow. I mean, the rest of day 6 and 7. Some of 7. hopefully I'll get through this first trial. I mean, I just really want to go through like the Commonwealth witnesses, because the defense witnesses, hey, they were unbiased. So yeah. But I appreciate those that came by. I hope to see you all tomorrow. Thank you to the ones that watch me on TV. You're appreciated. And like I end all my lives, if you love and care about somebody, let them know you love and care about them, because tomorrow's never promised. And be careful who you surround yourself with. All right, everybody have a great night. Bye.
On this show called BDP, you know what I'm talking about? Shit. We been cool ever since, my nigga, know what I'm talking about? Put your eyes on me, like the spotlight. Recognize me, showing love, done got my grind right. Ain't never since day one, the love been on side. And since you got my back, I got your back for life. Yeah, pretty honesty. Know just what it is, I got it on me. Hey, you hold me down, you like my homie. Just know I got you down, just what it gon' be.